call the November 14th consent calendar to order. We're going to do item C1, then pause this. One of my fellow members is not here and won't be for a couple of minutes. Then we'll get started again and we'll finish up from there. So item C1, 1795 San Leandro Road. Is the applicant here, please?
Yes.
Okay, did I review the plans and I have no problem with the plans? Did you have, nor does Rob, our landscape person, do you have anything you need to or want to add, please?
No, we do not. We're going through plan check and happy to move forward.
Okay, very good. So because it's on for preliminary, is there anybody attending this meeting that would like to comment to the board on item C1, 1795 San Leandro Road, please?
No requests.
Okay, so we will recommend that it be preliminary final with the full board. And if you'd like to wait, that's going to be in about half an hour, 40 minutes. Otherwise, so far, they've always taken our recommendations, so do as you wish. I don't have a person for C2 on the landscape, so I'd like to pause this meeting until he shows up.
Okay, we can do that.
Daryl, are you still there? Daryl? Daryl,
Hi,
are you
one
still-
second. Daryl will be right on.
Okay, that's fine. So item C2, 160 Butterfly and C2, item 160 Butterfly Lane. I understand Rob has some comments, please.
First I have questions. Is the 10 by 30 pull out at the entry, is that a fire approval? Is that how you got around fire and the setback of the gates?
Correct.
Okay. So my comments were, for what it's worth, is I thought the entry gate was a little too, could use a little bit more detail to it, some clavos, some metal strapping or something. I thought it was a little too plain. And then the little stamp pattern that runs across the entry, the throat of the driveway, seems to kind of fight some of the other geometry. I'd almost get rid of it. That's my suggestion, but if you feel strongly otherwise, then it's your plan.
Is that it? And I have no comments. So Derek, is this in your court, the gate and the police?
The paving pattern we could definitely just modify. And the other thing about the gate, I think that's coming from the Becker office.
Daryl?
Yeah,
Comments, please?
correct. On the gate, we have a sliding gate. We're happy to add some metal accoutrement if that would satisfy the members of the board. The intention here.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and they
Okay,
could make a motion.
so you're
for-
okay with that?
Do it at a later date.
So I'm ready to recommend final approval for this with that one condition. And Rob, are you?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll hear that at the full board. It will be in with the planner in consultation with Rob. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, item C3, Biltmore.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Item C3. There are quorum issues today with this board. So Stacy, as it turns out, we can't have 3 members on here at the consent calendar. So Stacy and Rob, we found out about this kind of as it came along between the last meeting and this meeting. So Stacy and Rob took over the responsibilities for the consent calendar review. I'm stepping down. We'll come back as chairman. They're going to be leading this, okay? Hey, you're on.
I'll let you can be head chair there, Stacy. So did you folks get kind of our laundry list of
Yes, we did.
comments?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure what the protocol is in terms of David? Multitasking? Okay. So is the protocol to have these folks to read? I mean, it'd be kind of our little memo is a couple pages. It seems like it would take a bit. So we can let the applicant respond to it or just talk about the highlights. Do you want to print that, I guess? Yes, the subcommittee. So that last item there, the last item that you have showing up on your list there. You had it up a moment ago.
It's a list of 6 items, so, and we can address each of the 6 items.
So, so do you want to speak to the WELO? That was more like your thoughts on, just summarize that if you would please, and then let the applicant respond.
Well, the summary is that typically, anytime that we submit irrigation plans or with the MWELO calculations, we have to include pools as special landscape areas with a valuation of 1. on them and we went through the irrigation on the plans, it did not include any of the pools or spas in any of the areas on those calculations. And so more or less our response, and then also to the planting, most of the planting, especially in the pool area, under having gone back and checked it for our area, is all medium water use. It's not listed as low water use according to Santa Barbara calculations. But you guys claimed that, and this is a question back to the planner, is that, back to the planning department as well, is if those are now recalculated as low, then we need to see some documentation that indicates that.
We brought that with us today.
Okay, great. That was
Yep.
one thing. And also too, like, what was the, to how you did the plant factors, but then too, why were the pools not included on that calculation as well? And what's the thinking coming from the planning department, if they're accepting that, and how and why? That was the two major concerns that we had, having to do with water use and calculations and how they're provided. And then I think the other items under the pool complex are pretty self-explanatory, mainly relating to ADA and pool enclosures and, typical code-related items having to do with like the fencing with the wall adjacent has to be a certain distance. It's typical.
So the presumption is some of those things will come out when you folks go in the building department and some of those issues get kind of flagged or, I mean, that's kind of the, as you know, is the process. And so the last kind of paragraph is, I mean, however, it's just, that's our take on it, but we respect, I mean, this is a tough project to kind of navigate through. And so if you have ways of kind of getting there, I was just, I was a little concerned that my sense is that pool area and some of those adjoining areas are really forced in there. And my take was if you just reduce things a little bit, that I think things would start to work themselves out better, including ADA and some of the WOCO stuff. But that was my take on it. So that's why it was presented with kind of trying to present it in the most constructive manner, but, respect your folks' ability to kind of navigate through that. And so if you want to respond to that or.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
So we appreciate, number one, the thorough review that you guys did and the comments you came back with. They're instructive. Paul and I have gone over them and I'll just let Paul address them.
Okay.
But we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
In that forth.
Thank
well,
you.
and I mean, as you're aware, this is not our first embark case on this property. We actually went through this previously, and we actually ended up partitioning off a portion of the project, which we were able to proceed with to the building department, and then now we're back for the rest of the scope. So this was a concern that was voiced by the board earlier this year under that other case.
Right.
So, and Rob, you were kind enough to meet with us and kind of go through your
Right.
concerns and give some recommendations of how to address, basically in the letter you sent yesterday, you state that commercial developments are required to use all low water use plantings. That's a requirement that, is tough to apply to a project like this. We already have very well-established, subtropical planting palette. So what we're doing is we're protecting that in place. We're refurbishing, we're introducing all low water use, drought tolerant planting. So it's a very limited palette that we are working with. And part of what we did, and this came up the last time we presented the project, is we're using items from the Santa Barbara City amended list for low water use plants. So we actually packaged this with hydrozones, WELO calculations, and submitted it to the building department because the concern voiced earlier under the other planning case was that whether or not the building department would be accepting of using those WELO, the WUCL values. So we submitted it, we met with Bill Dang, and he said that because of the location of the project and its proximity to the city of Santa Barbara, they have allowed that amended list for low water use plants. And I actually reached out to Bill following up on receiving your letter. And he actually was kind enough to put that into writing.
Great.
So I've got, you know,
That's all we were
let me share it with the
requesting.
board.
Yeah.
I've got buildings letter saying that they are accepting of this for the specific location of this project, which
So-
is great. It opens us up to being able to proceed with those plant selections.
So my question back to that then, and back to Bill Dang, is going to be, so is that list made public and is it going to be representative to every other landscape architect with projects now along the coast?
It
Or is it only for Biltmore?
No, it's not, and he's accepted it on other projects before
Okay.
Biltmore. It's very specific because, I mean, you know, he's dealing with Santa Barbara County, which
Yes.
has a wide range of microclimates, you know, different, or, you know, just on the other side of the mountains, plants perform very different than they do here, right? So he does accept that depending on the specific location of the project.
Mhm.
If it's presented and they are accepting of it, they will proceed with that. But he has to make that call on a case-by-case basis.
Interesting.
I think your high water use, some of the existing stuff, as I said to you before, probably is fine because it's established. It's by the coast, it's shady
Yes.
over there, so inherently it doesn't have some of the water needs that you might have, you know, even up towards the foothills on that. You know, the other tool, I guess you could pull if you really need to is, and some people don't like this tool, is pulling some of the lawns maybe where they're heavily used and it's more shady and using synthetic turf. You know, because then that gets you no water use if you needed to go there and make things calc out. So we didn't even talk about that, but that's actually another
If
tool.
I may, under another SCD approval and building permit, the front lawn that's along Channel Drive there, that under that permit has actually been replaced by a very drought tolerant grass species.
Okay,
So
what is that grass species? Because
yeah,
some of those lawn
it's the
substitutes
same
aren't
one.
real impressive, but.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, most of them don't really perform
So, and
a
anyways,
lot of water.
so that's for you folks to kind of navigate through. So on the, so then on the comments regarding the ADA compliance, the notion of shrinking the pool, or some of those adjoining areas to maybe free yourself up and maybe gives you guys a better ability to navigate through some of those. I mean, we saw things like, as we said, where the ADA path was going across the sandy beach. So wheelchairs don't work real well on the sandy beach.
Well, and so that one right there, we can actually go to, Steve, are you able to pull that up? If you could go to the architectural plan for the family pool complex, I think that's the best exhibit for that. And it's like 2 pages past this, if I remember correctly. There you go. So zoom in on that path that's coming in to the right.
The right of the children's pool.
Front of building U, yeah.
Right,
there.
yeah,
See
that
it?
beat where the beach is,
Nope,
Oh.
go with the other side, right there.
right there where the beach
That
is
one
and
right
by
there,
the,
that one
Yeah.
is let's on the right side. That's
Yeah.
that's a graphic hiccup. I apologize for that. Thank you for calling it to our attention. That pathway was, I mean, you'll see there's the blue dot. We had a line pop up above another one that was not intentional. That's something we have already fixed in our model, but that pathway does continue across there. So you're correct that that one is showing the beach intersecting that pathway, but what it should be doing is going up to the edge of the sidewalk, and the sidewalk is continuous there.
so let me at least make the statement for the public's benefit is that we did recommend final approval and it's more or less you
Right.
folks have, and that's contingent on the rest of the MBARs kind of agreeing with us, but we did, so we recommended full approval and then basically it's a laundry list for you folks to navigate through either over the next weeks or months or whether either through, as you go through the building department process, Or if you come out the other end and you still need to come back with, I don't even know if they are for review after final anymore, but there's ways to kind of get there and kind of accomplish that whole
Right.
list.
There,
So-
there's a few little coordination items that, we've addressed the comments received. John Watson had reached out to us with some of his feedback. We've addressed a number of those through the planning department. So yeah, there's a lot in this project.
Yeah.
We've addressed a lot of those comments. The intent there is to make sure that it's, aesthetically pleasing and safe, and that we are, ready to proceed with this project. So, yeah, these little items that are getting cleaned up, we're happy to, share that with you as we resolve those. But
Yeah, we like to see those.
Yeah, we'd like to support your recommendation for final approval and then us come back and continue to work out details to your satisfaction.
Okay, so then I believe, do you have anything
That's
else?
fine. No, I
Steve?
think that's fine, but we are going to review the letter from Bill Dang.
yeah,
before
I'm
we-
happy to
Yeah,
leave a
the
copy
full-
with you, and I can
Okay.
submit a copy. I'll do that through our planner.
Okay.
And so I think the protocol is that then when the full board takes it up in 10 minutes or so, or whatever it is, and then we will make a motion at that point.
Good.
And
Thank you.
Okay.
Does,
Appreciate it.
does the letter cover like why you're not including pools and stuff in your SLA calculation? But the pools are not on the irrigation.
We have a
plans.
WELO calc that went to the Montecito Water District that has
Okay.
those on there, and we'll provide that to you.
Okay, that's what we need to see. Yeah, we just want to have it more transparent
Yes,
about the water usage.
that's already in the record. We had a
The agreements.
substantial reduction in water use.
Great. That's important. Okay.
Super, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Has some family issues today and said he can get here about 1:15. So we can't hear the project until he gets here. We're going to try to rock and roll and do as much as we can without him.
Okay.
But as you can see, we only have 3. And so when people show up, we can start doing other things.
We are happy to stick around.
Very good.
Yep, thank you.
Montecito Board of Architectural Review. Just to let everybody know, there are quorum issues today. Item 7 is going to get moved into the first position. Everyone else gets moved back. And there are also personnel issues about who can and can't talk. So item number 7, which is getting moved, is this guy right here has got to be out. So we've got to wait for someone to come in. So it's going to be a little bit of a funny agenda today. And I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on what's going to look like some kind of revolving chairs or something like that. Okay? So with that said, first item. Public comment. Anybody want to make a comment to the board on an item not before us today, please? Agenda status report.
So there was no requests on the first one, and as for agenda status report, no changes.
Minutes. Anybody have any comments of the minutes of October 31st, please? Anybody? Okay, so on item number 1 in the action, I don't remember this. Okay, so this was the Biltmore. Watson moved, seconded by Kung and carried by a 4-2. Wolf recused, I understand that. Fowler and Sen, no. I don't remember that. Reduction, the Biltmore, the last time we were here.
I do remember, voting against something. Yeah, Robert and I voted no because we were okay with granting final at that particular time.
Okay,
I think was the essence of it. And with the stuff coming back through consent and, you know, at a later time. So we both voted no.
okay. Item number 6, again in the action. I think the correct terminology here is Watson moved, not Watson proposed. I'd like to change that. And besides that, I have nothing else. Anybody else, please? I'd like to move for approval of the minutes of October 31st as
So-
amended.
No moved.
Okay, then he can move. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? MBAR members informational briefing, please.
I will be standing down or recusing myself on item 1, which was item 7 on the agenda.
Okay. Anybody else got anything? Staff update?
Just an issue of general interest. So the County Planning Commission did approve the Miramar project at their November 1st hearing. The deadline to submit appeals was on Tuesday. We did receive by end of day 5 appeals, so it'll be going to the board. I believe that they are aiming for December 10th, I believe.
Okay. Anybody else? Kimberly, please?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay, so we can do item C1 and C2 without Robert here. So Rob and I reviewed item C1. This was the very small addition to Crane School. We both thought it was okay. And to that end, I'd like to move for final preliminary, no, before I make the motion, is there anybody attending this meeting virtually or in person that would like to address the board on item C1, 1795 San Leandro Lane, please?
No requests.
I'd like to move for both preliminary and final for item C1, 1795 San Leandro Lane as submitted.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Carried unanimously. Item C2, 160 Butterfly Lane. Rob thought that a slightly embellished gate would be better, and Daryl Becker said that he'd be happy to provide that in consultation with the planner and Rob. So to that end, yep,
We talked the paving. I thought that they were willing to look at that. I was suggesting that enhanced paving strip kind of fought with some of the other geometry. And so I got the impression they were willing to at least look at that and either leave it as is but in that process of coming back with the gate, at least take another look at that piece too.
okay, again, we're on for preliminary final. So is there anybody attending this meeting in person or virtually like to address the board on item C2-160 Butterfly Lane, please?
No requests.
I'd like to move for final approval with the applicant to revise, embellish the entry gate, and to consider altering what is it?
Yeah,
Concrete?
the enhanced paving strip at the entrance gate.
Is, and so the motion would be to approve it with review by the planner of these two issues in consultation with Rob Fowler. There a second? There's a
Sure.
second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
you're
you.
down. You're off. Okay, so we are now on item C3. It looks effortless, doesn't it? So, okay, so Rob and Stacy were our subcommittee. They had a 10, 15-minute chat during consent. You guys want to report what happened, please? Go ahead.
So
Oh,
was the board, did you guys all receive our letter, Robert? Robert, did you receive our letter regarding the item C3 on the Biltmore?
No.
Well, we're recommending final approval, but with a list of further small issues that need to be resolved with the planning department, just in communication with them.
With us. So yeah, there's a laundry list. There's a laundry list of items to be corrected, adjusted, modified that will kind of reveal themselves and surface as they go through the building department. And that the way it's set up is they work through the planner in consultation with Stacy and I as the subcommittee. And then also on the, let's see, do we just, John, what is the appropriate? Read this list here, maybe? Let's do these items or?
so that was your, Mark, do you have anything you want to say, please?
No, I just was going to respond to your motion.
Okay, it looks like, see, there's different colors down here at the bottom. It looks like they are also suggesting we need further clarification from Bill Dang as to why the lawns of the Biltmore, as well as the pools, are not in the irrigation WELO calculations. Why are they not part of an overall calculation? Question mark.
So
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
And we will provide that information. It has been processed already.
Yeah, I just want to leave it on the list until we get the.
Yeah, yeah, please.
We're committing to,
Yeah,
because I understood that all you wanted was a copy of the materials that were provided to the Montecito Water District. Doesn't require us to get an explanation from Bill Dang. So,
okay, well,
John, my understanding, your language here, I understand.
they just asked me to add that, and so this is very much up for discussion.
Okay.
I just found out about it too.
Sure.
So can one,
Yeah, so the building, the list that he's provided and the email doesn't cover one of the comments having to do with why were the lawns left off of the overall irrigation calculations. So we have to, even when we're doing a remodel, have to include everything because they want to look at the maximum allowable water that's being supplied to the Biltmore. And usually you have to supply all of those calculations as part of the irrigation plans because you're irrigating the lawns as part of the demand. You can't just cherry pick and say, we're only going to list these areas that are being newly planted, you typically have to give the overall picture. And so he gave a modified list of plants declaring that they are low water use because of where it's located, but not including the lawn. But the lawns are still, they were not part of the calculation. So I think Bill Dang needs to clarify if he's excluding those off of your calculations as he passes it through, or if those need to be included, like they typically are in everybody else's.
But I think you have the opportunity
Planning.
really to go to do the calculations and now based on this discussion, there's tools in the box, of course. Like I mentioned, you can get rid of some additional lawn areas. There's other things that you can do. So I think it's just a matter of showing us the calculations like we all have to do. And I think you're, in this process that we ask where you're coming back in consultation with the planner with us, I think you have plenty of opportunity to kind of, either bring Bill into the picture or whatever, or don't bring Bill into the picture. But I think you with your landscape architect could readily do the calculations, make it all work. And I'd be happy to kind of throw my 2 cents and suggestions how you get there like I did in one of your earlier projects.
Well, and it may very well pass. They're just not in there yet. I mean, you might be fine.
Can I say something? We need extremely specific language.
Yes.
It can't be fuzzy. I think that that's what Chip's trying to do. So I need this nice
We need the
letter
long,
that you sent me. We need this cut down to
Okay.
like 10 or 20 words, 10 or 15 words, please.
We want to read
Mr.
this?
Chair, can I?
Yes, please.
And I actually, what I need is perhaps even beyond specific language. This particular question, whether or not we have an approval of a project based upon its level of water usage, has already been decided as part of the Planning Commission approval. So we were very careful, and with all due respect, yes, in fact, it was. So we have a determination by the Planning Commission that having a particular area of pool, a particular number of water fixtures, those uses, we very intentionally included that in what went to the Planning Commission because I wanted to make sure that there was not any follow-up question or concern. We are up, I think, up until that issue, or if it is language which requires us to provide to you what we already provided to the Planning Commission and including what we provided to the Montecito Water District so that we have confirmation that they can and will serve the project, including the amount of lawn that we have, the amount of pool area we have, all of those other things. We're happy to provide that documentation and that confirmation. What I don't want to end up with is a loop where we continue to go, for example, back to Bill Dang, or we go back to Montecito Water District, or we go back in any kinds of loops. And again, I appreciate that there are tools available that we could show additional water savings, but we've already gotten the approval. And so we're on the verge of pulling permits to begin construction of this. We're not, this is not weeks or months off. This is hours off.
Stacy, I think that
it's a
what we-
construction document issue, John. Because this is the level. We're just checking to see if what you have proposed in terms of design that was approved by the Planning Commission, that you've met it in construction documentation.
No,
And these are calculations that are part of a construction documentation package. So Planning Commission wouldn't know that when they're approving exactly what your proposed irrigation is until your planting plans are completed and then you calculate it.
yes. No,
Just
you
ensuring that
may,
it's all there.
with all respect,
Yeah.
you may be in fact correct that normally you would not have had this level of detail at the time that you were looking at the preliminary approval. We made sure that in fact there was this level of detail in what went to the Montecito Planning Commission. So if what we need to do now is provide with the building plan level documents,
Mhm.
that level of detail that's already gone, then that's what I'm saying, that's
Mhm.
fine. What I was hearing was a need to further calculate and try and reduce water usage, for example, through reduction in pool size, reduction in lawn area, other changes to the project. And so if we don't have, again, it's just a matter of providing the confirming documents, which went to the planning commission, we're fine doing that. If it is creating new stuff and changing the areas of actual usage, we're not doing that.
Stacy, can I jump in here, please? So I think that what this board needs to do, this is an unusual approval method. So I think provide documentation on what was given the Montecito Water District.
Mhm.
Provide documentation demonstrating building department has accepted water use.
That's it.
Is that okay?
I
Yeah.
think that's fine.
Okay, so,
That's what we're looking for.
Right.
Yes.
so what I'd like to do is to move for final approval with the following conditions. The document that I handed out earlier, but just items 3, 4, 5, and 6, eliminating item number 1 and 2, and adding, provide documentation on what was given to Montecito Water District, and provide documentation demonstrating building department has accepted water use.
Right?
That's it.
Is there a second to that motion, please?
Second.
Any further discussion, please? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good luck, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Okay, so can you get this to Kimberly or you? Okay, thank you. Item number 7, because we're switching things out. Now, again, there are quorum issues today, so we had to move things around. I just want to explain it to everybody. We're taking item number 7 first. Then we are going to go back to the normal agenda. Okay? So we have.
No, I was being distracted. Is this project?
No.
Let's try to keep. Excuse me, let's try to keep clear. We have some neighbors that have comments. I know that you do have an HOA approval. I think we've seen the project. You can go over the highlights with it. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll do our best to do that,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. It is a project that has been seen, 1755 Glen Oaks, a few times here. And so I think there is some familiarity by the board. What I just would like to address is all the effort that has been made most recently since our last review. We've made some changes that, if you could turn on, I think page A 1.4, it's really, we didn't stop addressing the ideas of considering relocation of the structure, redesign of the structure. There's been a lot of discussion about the oak tree that is proposed to be removed. And this map, this restriction map that was provided here kind of reflects the crowns of the oak groves, the flood zones, and the setbacks from 2 front yards. So I just wanted to show that we were, the effort to possibly relocate, redesign the structure was not closed, and we were still looking at that. But there has been considerable effort made with the homeowners association and the neighbors directly south, because those are the ones that are most concerned with the view and the block view of the mountain view and such. So we just basically wanted to address the work that has been done to try to get that final approval by homeowners association. It's a considerable landscape work that was being proposed to achieve that. And we've got Bob Rennick and Bill Millett here. Bill could address the landscape that the neighbors were very concerned. I believe several went out to the job site to see what they could potentially lose as far as view. They also wanted to block the view of the structure and of the deck. So it was a combination of not blocking their view of the mountains and also minimizing the view of the home. We've made some changes. We put the pool equipment away from the south side of the property line to the north side to reduce some impact to the neighbors. There's been discussion about wanting to maybe relocate the pool, moving it further away, or the actual, there's an outdoor barbecue area with a covered area. And we've kept that in the same spot because there's an access line that the spa, the pool, the home, and the ADU are all in line on an access. So we'd like to keep that. And if we did relocate that, the pool would be coming further south, closer to the neighbor's property. So with that, I'd like to pass it along to Bill Millett, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions if you guys have questions, but in light of what we're trying to do right now.
Just really quick, that
Yes.
big oak tree you're getting rid of
That's correct. Yeah.
in this final proposal.
It's
Yes, please go ahead.
So thank you. I'm Bill Mellett. I'm the landscape architect on this project. And first off, I'll just talk to one of the major concerns from the neighbor to the south is the screening of the new proposed building and any effect it would have on their privacy. We're proposing a ficus hedge between this project and the neighbors for screening in a 24-inch box size. They are in the ground at about 8 foot. And my understanding is that homeowner is proposing to build the ADU first and then the main residence. And so there is a period of approximately 2 years before the main residence would maybe even be started. So based on about a 2-foot growth period for the ficus, we're anticipating another 4 feet of growth upon the hedge. And we're also planting 2 trees along that property line, 2 oaks to mitigate the view of the building, which will be large box trees at about 18 foot at time of planting.
Can you go to A 4.4?
Yes. From this exhibit, you can see the view lines from the neighbor's deck over to the new proposed structure and the screening that would be provided by the new hedging and tree. So there really is not much of the house visible at the time of construction, and within a few years, I'm confident the whole house will be screened from the neighbors to the south.
Okay. Is that the end of your presentation or no?
Yeah, there's L 1.1 that does show also. It follows that sheet, probably 2-3 more sheets. And it does show the growth of the landscape at the different stages, initial construction, and 2 different photographs showing. So I think it's 1.1. Yeah. And after that, John, I think that does, and again, we're here to answer any questions, but it would, so this kind of shows the, yeah, from that railing that you're standing right at is the master bedroom, I believe, of the neighbor's property, but that's the view that was being addressed in those sections. Yeah, and I think you could see there's a little red writing in the crown of the tree and in the hedge that dictates the periods of time where the growth is at that time.
Okay, questions? Robert?
Can you remind me what the FAR is?
It's 107 or something like that.
Yes, Robert, we have it on page A 0.2. It's the third sheet of the set, but I believe we, is 106 is the FAR.
And this is a question for Kimberly. Is it required now or in the near future to, when you have a ADU, to have an owner occupied residence?
No, the state has removed the requirements and precludes the county from requiring owner occupancy on any ADU or JADU. Actually, I'm sorry, JADUs require owner occupancy. Standard ADUs do not.
Detached ADUs.
Detached ADUs would not require owner occupancy.
What about parking?
And no replacement parking required. If they're converting a garage, if they're having a detached ADU, they are required to provide one parking space unless they can prove a series of conditions, like they're within a half-mile of a bus stop.
Okay. No more questions.
Rob, questions, please. AC, please.
No questions.
Okay, public comments. I believe we have at least one letter. We do have an approval from the HOA, which is kind of in that, but we looked at it, I think. And then there was, I think, at least one. Okay, so is there anybody here, either in the meeting or attending virtually, that is representing the same issue, please? No?
No request, no.
Okay, so I have read this is in the file, so I'm gonna read the headline, as it were, from each of the bullet points. Okay, our clients wish to focus the MBAR's attention on 4 key requests that would dramatically improve the project. 1, remove the window on the southern wall of the second floor breakfast nook. Stop there. Very quick. Have you guys done that or no? Yes, no, no. Okay. Number 2, pull back the southwest corner of the second floor deck. Yes or no, please?
No.
Push the project 5 feet northward.
No.
Move the outdoor pool, bar, kitchen, and pergola to the north side of the pool.
And that was the one I addressed, but no.
And is there one more? Okay, very good. Is there any other letters in there? David, anybody else?
Just one more letter.
Well, please, okay. As homeowner, this is actually not the attorney, but the owners. As a homeowner of 1757 Glen Oaks, the property just to the south, we would ask that you take into consideration the size and location of the proposed build in making your approval decision. Specifically, our home sits at a much lower elevation relative to that project and only has a roof height of just under 15 feet. These 2 points exacerbate the looming quality of the proposal and impacts our privacy and views. Landscape screening is not sufficient given the size and proximity of the proposed build to our home. Notwithstanding our general concerns, our attorney is also submitting concurrently a letter enumerating specific requests that at a minimum you consider. We appreciate your time and consideration and only wish that this discussion had taken place among neighbors and with the HOA Architectural Committee, which was required, rather than in front of the MBAR. Okay, anybody else, please? David, anybody else? Okay, so comments. We are on for preliminary today. Robert.
I think it's a reasonable proposal and I would support it for preliminary.
Rob, please.
Yes, I went to the site and it's pretty covered in vegetation, trees. Looked at some different adjustments as possibilities and I think that you know, if they try to move the house further down, there's other issues that kind of, if they try to move it closer to the creek, there's other issues that come into play. So, you know, I agree with Robert. I think it's a nice looking project and I hope that they continue to work with the neighbors as much as they can in making adjustments for them to try to accommodate some of their views, but I support the project as is.
Stacy, please.
At this point, I think I can support the project. I think they've gone to a number of lengths to try and remedy the screening between the two properties. And I also think sometimes it's hard, it's new on the neighbor and as much as I know that they'd like to suggest and design it, it's not always that easy or that applicable. So yes, I think I can support it at this point.
Okay, and I have said from the first meeting after the site visit, I just can't support it. It's that big tree, you know, we take out trees all the time on this board and plant them back, but this guy, I think he's probably close to 200 years old is my guess, and I just don't have the heart to do it, so I'm going to vote against it. So is there a motion for that reason only? I think it's a reasonable project besides that. So is there a motion for preliminary approval, please? It sounds like we're ready for that.
I'll motion for preliminary.
Your second, please.
Yes, second with the encouragement that the design team continue to try to accommodate the neighbors where they can.
Any further discussion, please?
Would you like this to come back on standard?
Yeah, let's come back for final because we have so few people
Yep.
here on full board.
Yeah, I agree.
All those in favor, please?
Aye.
All those opposed? No. Robert, thank you. Well, Bill's out there somewhere. Get him in and there he is. Be good, buddy.
I'll be all right. I'm gonna sit here.
Oh,
This is
okay.
almost cathartic to not feel like
Okay.
stuff.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yes, please.
Okay. No, that's great. No, I'm always, you know, I mean, we're not obligated, you know, by law to protect views, but we certainly try as much as possible to accommodate and encourage that. So thank you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, item 1. The Myers New Residence 1221 East Valley Road. We have a request to speak and we have a letter from the same person, Mindy Wolf. We did do a site visit about a month ago or so, and it was kind of got screwed up because, but at least some of us saw it. And so, Jeff, okay, so there's a memo. Okay, I didn't see that. The project includes a request for a modification to allow uncovered parking for the following reasons. Building a new structure to meet the covered parking requirement is potentially problematic due to known flood hazards. 2, the development area is constrained by topography, existing native trees, and size. Historically, the site had 2 covered parking spaces, uncovered parking spaces located on the adjacent parcel and no covered parking. The proposed modification is subject to the provisions of such and such design review and shall be scheduled to be heard by the Montecito Board of Architectural Review for preliminary review and approval only before the project is heard by the Montecito Planning Commission. Please comment your board's position on the following MPC findings of approval for the modification of the parking. So the findings are: the modification is minor in nature and result in a better architectural or site design as approved by the Montecito Board of Architectural Review, and or will result in a greater resource protection than the project without the modification. The project will be compatible with the neighborhood and will not create an adverse impact to aesthetics, community character, or public views. Jeff, you're on.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Shelton, architect, and sorry about missing that meeting last month. Didn't know about it at the site.
And were you in town?
I was not in town either.
And where were you?
I was across the seas.
In France, guys, so.
So sorry about that. So a couple of things here I wanted to talk about was parking mainly. And we brought our building back in with the changes, some changes that you guys asked us to look at. So let's first go to the parking. Let's go to the next sheet, site plan. If you can blow that up a little bit, just the area we want to look at. So just for a little history, you know, we did that roundhouse here for Mary Beth, my client, and there was already an easement, parking easement in that upper area. That's where she parks for her roundhouse. And this house, this triangle lot house, also has 2 easement parking spaces in that area. You know, this is old Spanish town, kind of old school Montecito. Everyone parked out there, and there were about 4 or 5 houses in this area. So when we approached this one, we approached it just like the round one, where we were going to park out there in that public area on our official easement, just like the old owners did on the building that got demolished on this triangle lot. There was a 2-story building. You can see it right there on the lot, A-frame building that went down in the debris flow. Upon talking to fire department, the neighbors brought it up first. The fire department sort of said, we would like to not have you park in your easement, and could you park, we would like to have access to your place. They're not going to drive in there, but they want to get through it. It could be a road base or whatnot to get to your lot. And at the same time, planning, of course, said, yes, now we want you to park on your lot. And so we're perfectly happy parking where we used to park. But so we came up with this plan, and our department likes it, and we like it. It's parking out in the open as they used to. We could add a carport there. We would rather not. And like I said, parking, fire department likes this solution of ours. So we were just trying to keep it simple, the old Spanish town vibe. You know, we will have planting, hiding the cars from the lot to the north. The neighbors who I believe don't want us to have a garage there. Now, Flood also liked that we weren't having a garage there. In that, if we did put a garage with sides on it, we would have to do that mitigation and dig out that. You know how that goes. Remove a bunch of dirt to supplement the new garages. So if we did have to do a garage, I suppose we'd just want to do a carport when you'd still see the car. But anyway, so Flood was in favor of not having another structure down here. So that's sort of our parking, our desire to get our parking mod. To keep it simple, keep it casual. The neighbor, of course, Mary Beth she's a neighbor also. She doesn't mind looking at the car. And that's where we stand on that. Do you want me to talk about the building as it
What do you agendize for today, buddy?
Am I agendized to talk about the building? Concept.
What are you on for? Further concept.
Yeah, it won't take long.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So, since our last visit, you had some comments, that I'll get to, but the planning also had some comments. They decided our lot was a street, had a street front, which is at 10 feet there on East Valley. So our easements are 10 feet now instead of 5 feet. What's that? Our setbacks, sorry about that, are now 10 feet. So we adjusted, our building stayed the same. We kind of tweaked it over, talked to Flood about it. At first, they approved it in our hazards meeting, and then they wanted us to adjust the foundation, so we ended up adjusting the foundation. There you see our foundation is now 192 square feet. 100, where's our footprint? 184 square foot footprint, which Flood likes quite a bit, and our building is raised up 6 feet to let the waters and the flood go underneath it. Our original footprint, once again, these are all flood calculations, was I think 780 for the original building that got removed in the debris flow. So we're down to 184 square feet for the footprint. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is just the crazy easement game we have there. Why don't you go to the next one? Keep going. The neighborhood, if you want to get back to it, I think you know the neighborhood pretty good. Let's keep going let's get to the meat of it, the drawings. So here's the new plan. The building, looks very much the same. We've dropped the height 3.5 feet. There was some issues about, can you lower it? We did do that. So this front peak is 3.5 feet lower. The foundation has changed. As you can see, the eaves have gone down another foot, a foot smaller. We're inside or at the required new setback. We've added, let's go to the next slide, please. So there was concern about this front window, and after you guys commented, could you raise it was floor to ceiling, so we brought it up off the ceiling 40 inches. The windows with some panels, and it's actually good for us too, because now you won't see a bed or a desk in there from below. You asked if we could soften that up a bit, so we did that there. The rest of the plan has basically stayed the same. The model didn't get changed except lowered. What else do we have? Let's go to the next, now that we're at it. Now we just start to see details just so we could draw it more accurately, but we're trying to keep it as thin as possible. There's the corner. Next. Some details, you could look at detail, but right now it's a core tin building with simple details. It's simple sheet metal details we could get that are clean. That slab is an 11-inch slab that cantilevers this thing over the flood area. Next. Once again, very as simple details as you get out there with a welder and keep it not complicated. Next. That is complicated. That's trying to cantilever the roof. You won't see that, but that's just trying to figure it all out. So that's our presentation. Like I said, fire has approved the plan. Flood and special problems areas, we've looked at that. Had botanists, arborists, everyone look at this. That's it.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions, Bill?
Yeah, Jeff, is the purpose of the design do you want to express the pedestal feel? Or are you okay with with, and I know it's flood related too, but would you be okay with planting around the base of that? We don't have a landscape plan, but planting it so it doesn't feel like it's floating so much.
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with planting around it. I'm really going after flood first and then working my way back. And simplifying the amount of disturbance in the creek there. So, we're really 4 caissons and a bunch of concrete.
And just to clarify, the modification is for the uncovered parking option.
That's right.
Right. And you really can't see those parking spaces from the street, can you? I mean,
Well, not from the street.
way back in there.
No, and we would plant, once again, when we see we have a project, we'll get landscape plans with blocking and, screening.
And then the driveway material, the fire department obviously has their requirements, but the area where you're pulling in and maneuvering your cars, what is that material going to?
We hadn't got to that, I suggested, well, put asphalt if you want. He said, no, just road base is good, as far as they're concerned. Because they don't plan actually
It's
using.
not going to go all that way,
Um,
all the way up anyway.
I haven't discussed that with Mary Beth, but casual is our goal.
Be gravel then or?
Gravel if we could, but, I
Okay.
haven't checked with the county and whatnot.
Okay, great. That's it. Thank you.
Stacy, questions, please.
Yeah, I didn't see this first round, but we did review the projects just to the north of this, I believe, and they were heavily screened along East Valley Road. Is this one just as screened and invisible from East Valley?
Yeah, it is. You have to kind of be snooping around on foot to see it.
Breaking and entering? Okay, yeah, and we did actually review the crazy parking situation that you have on the easement with the other applicants too. Okay, I mean, for the most part, and you said you're going to come back with landscape next time? Okay.
Rob, please, questions?
Is the owner here? So my question is to you. All these triangle pieces, triangle beds, triangle tables here, I was curious to see if your head was a triangle, so, okay. So then the other thing was that the attorney that wrote this long letter made reference to having a biologist, take a look at things and stuff. So you've indicated you have all those kinds of documents and so forth in terms of biologist.
Yeah, we do. We've had a botanist, she a botanist? Yeah, look at it, Rachel Tierney.
Okay.
And
seen her in a while.
report into Tatiana.
Okay.
And a arborist report with that.
All right. Those are my questions for now.
Robert, please.
No questions.
And I have no questions. Mindy, you have both a letter and a speaker slip. Let's not double dip. How's that? You get one or the other. Talk or letter, which would you like, please? Okay, good.
Here.
Okay, excellent. Try to keep it to 3 minutes. I know you have a lot to say, but
Hold on.
okay, thank you.
Chairman Watson, Board, Montecito Architect Board, my name is Mindy Wolf. I represent Perm Taylor, the owner of 1217 East Valley Road, right next door. The only access to this project today is over Ms. Taylor's property. And first, the client asked we recognize Mr. Shelton's nice design and creativity. However, we oppose granting the parking modification today because the findings cannot be found. This is not a minor variation from the standard, but it's a total disregard of the standard. This isn't one covered, one uncovered, or some variation. It's ignoring the requirement of covered parking altogether. Today is the first time we've heard they were willing to do a carport. That's never been presented to us. One solution is to put the required covered parking under the residence. Sorry, this is my photo, but you know what it looks like Ms. Taylor was required. This board just recently required her to lift her building even higher and to put her parking underneath her structure. It's no small irony. The person that would suffer from the impacts of the modification was required to lift her own home. There's no justification for a double standard for Ms. Meyer's project today. The proposed architecture is striking, But when the site is taken in whole and the uncovered parking is all around the building, the visual impacts of the cars will distract entirely from the design. The modification does not result in better site design or better architecture. The applicant has not proven the modification provides greater resource protection. I'm hearing today, I'd asked Tatiana about biologist reports. I hadn't been given those. But there's no statement today that resources are better protected because of uncovered parking. The modification is only negative aesthetic impacts. It's entirely inconsistent with Montecito community character. The applicant has already received a modification from MBAR for 0 covered parking spaces at 1225. This first picture are 3 of Ms. Meyer's cars, all 3 illegally parked, all on the Taylor property. We had to get her attorney involved. We had to ask her to move them. So this is the current condition. And now we're expecting, more uncovered parking out there. This results in more than 4 uncovered spots in parking easements and illegally parked and shared access. The yellow Jeep is in an access easement shared with my client, but she parks there all the time. The new modification will exacerbate this already poor condition and cause even greater negative impacts. The applicant has existing building and zoning violations, including illegal trailer, extensive decking that was brought on the property by the applicant years ago. There's the little rectangle thing, is a trailer, decking all around it, resident living in it, who knows where the septic goes. The project is also currently in violation of Montecito Fire Department defensible space and a fire marshal order to remove this oak grove that she put in. There's about 10 oak trees, all within a 20 to 40 foot area, planted 10 feet from each other. Each tree really wants 30 feet. The applicant has ignored the fire marshal's order for over a year. The non-compliance puts the neighborhood in daily increased fire risk. The landscape plan should for sure be required prior to any modification. We can't even understand what the impacts are of this uncovered parking until we know what landscaping they're proposing. So it's chicken and egg. The modification today should not be granted. Ms. Myers is not a debris flow victim. She bought a highly constrained lot and she's trying to build on it. Unlike my client who was a debris flow victim. She is being asked on a highly constrained lot to ignore the standards, even though they could be met. There's no justification. We strongly are confident that with Mr. Shelton's creativity, he can provide covered parking as required as a minimum standard. This is not old school, old Spanish village. This is brand new construction on a vacant lot, and it should be required to comply. There's no basis for modifications. This last picture just has to do with the trees that have been planted and our concern of asking for a landscape plan so we know what it is they're trying to get approved. Specifically ask the board to deny the modification because the required findings cannot be made. I'm available for questions if you have some.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Jeff, David.
No additional requests.
Okay, so we're back to comments. Jeff, before we do that, Ms. Wolf is making claims about that you could alter your plan. Before we start deliberating, would you like to address that assertion she made, please?
Well, there's a couple of things you said about that was, could we park under the building? If we raised it up, there might be able a way to sneak a car under it. I'd have to look at that. Interesting, but it would raise the building another 3 feet up, three or four. I'd have to check, but
Back to where you were.
kind of back to where we were and have to move it over. I'm saying this stuff, and I get back in the office and it's a mess, but let's pretend that could happen. That's one way to do it. Another way is, like I said, we could put a carport on there. And I don't think a carport
Let
without
me see the
sides.
parking.
I don't think a carport without side. If a carport doesn't have sides, does flood? Is there no mitigation? I don't know the rule there, but.
Okay, is that what you got, Jeff, for right now?
That's what we have.
Okay, very good.
Good question.
Yeah, please.
Is it possible to take soil below on the cantilever side to get a car under without raising the building up further? Are you allowed to remove soils because that would reduce hydrology effects, or would that compromise the engineering?
I don't know the answer, but something to, I suppose, look at.
Just a thought.
Okay, so questions, we'll get back to you in actually comments at this point. So Rob, comments, please?
We go to the elevation.
Questions?
We went through questions, I thought.
Okay, very good.
Did we? Yeah. No, it's okay. Can we go, the colored elevations, please?
We're on item 1, not 2.
So, I love the upper part of the elevation, and this reminds me of a Wings, the show Wings, when they hired a New York famous architect, and they wanted a Cape Cod house, and then he designed a 7, and so they struggled with that. So my take on it is I think the building feels like it needs to be grounded more. And so I struggle with it kind of floating up there. So I feel like that it would look and come across better, and at least would be, I mean, first of all, I admire your creativity. I think your work is great. And I love these elevations, but like I said, the upper half of it, I feel like it wants to be grounded in another manner. So you have 3 or 4 caissons you're working with. And to me, if the corners were kind of supported and then that was articulated in a manner, and maybe that even goes hand in hand with trying to put a carport under there, I think I would be more apt to want to support the project. I would like the way it comes across. And I understand that, once you vegetate and all that, you're not going to see what's down below, but that's just my reaction to the plan. So, thank you.
Stacy, comments, please. Oh, excuse me, geez, what a day. Bill, comments, please. Excuse me all.
Yeah, that's why I was asking the question about plantings. And I think, maybe it's a combination of plantings and some screening fencing that maybe ties in. I like the architecture of the building. I think it's really, really fun, but it does feel heavy on top of the small pedestal. And I think that maybe there's a way to incorporate potentially, maybe it's a screen, maybe the carport idea could work. I don't know if a roof is going to help screen away the car. If the neighbor's house is 2-story, it might, but if it isn't, and it's just fencing and landscape, that might be enough to kind of create the screen that you need from the neighbor's view of the cars. And like I said, I think as Rob was leaning toward too, and maybe on these renderings, you show your stairway, because that probably helps ground it as well. The things that maybe, whether it's in front of or layered in front of the structure, just to kind of help it feel like it's connected, just feels a little heavy to me on the outside. So I would definitely suggest a landscape plan. I think that's going to be an important part of this feature of this house. So, and I certainly don't have any problem with the materials you're talking about in terms of driveway, gravel, and that kind of thing. I think it'll look great. Thanks.
Stacy, now your turn.
Okay. I like the architecture. I think it's pretty interesting, and the pedestal concept adjacent to the creek, sort of, I'd like to have more emphasis on the cantilever over the creek and bringing that creek into the house as much as possible, because I think that's the most fascinating thing to look at too on this particular site. I think landscape is going to be very important, especially screening it from the neighbor's property that you come through, in terms of them not seeing any of your cars. I don't think it's unreasonable too for them to request that you have to submit to the same standards everybody else is having covered parking. But I also believe that a carport doesn't cause a problem on the hydrology versus doing a garage as well. So a lighter structure. as long as it can pass through is what they look at. But I think, yeah, I think it'll get grounded more with planting into the site and integrated better. And once you're there, and that's the next step. But I think from an architectural standpoint, I can support the building.
Robert,
It's a very constrained site. I know there are civil issues going on. I was out there. I have a little bit of problem with the Dolly Parton nature of it, but it is very creative as usual, Jeff. You've done a great job. I'm curious about the swale on the west. Is that I mean, can we create? And the only other thing I worry about is the amount of paving that is required to get that fire truck in. But yeah, man, it's a tiny site. How many acres is it? Yes, 0.23. So there's really not that much room for parking unless you put it underneath. But it's a really interesting design that hopefully would survive a mud flow. And you know, the floating nature of it is very interesting, but I'm not sure I'm sold on it yet. Maybe parking underneath would make it better. So I think we're here kind of to decide on the mod for no parking, no covered parking, that is. And I'm not totally sold on that mod yet, unless you explore some other options. Those are my comments.
Tatiana, I understand you're on with your hands up.
Hi, Joe, this is Tatiana. Yeah, sorry. I wanted to, if I could, just add one comment about the covered parking. So just as an FYI, two of these parking spaces that are shown are within the 10-foot setback, which is required for this type of lot. You can't put a carport in that area. So two of these parking spaces would still be uncovered, at least the way it's currently shown. They're allowed to have one uncovered parking space, only two of them would need to be covered, but as it's designed right now, it would be an issue to just put a carport over the two other spaces since two of them are in the setback.
Thank you. Okay, so what I think is the smart thing from my comment is, Jeff, I think Mindy made some good points. And I'd like you to go back and propose some alternatives. Keep this, I'm not saying don't keep this, but maybe a couple of others. One might raise it, one might find a way. Since you love France, pilotis, something like that. Get rid of that center block down the bottom. I'm not quite sure what that's doing there between the lower part of the building and the ground, but pilotis would take care of that. So, and then come back and let's chat at that point and see amongst at least one other alternative and, let's go from there. I'm not really excited about approving anything in the setbacks ever. But I'm not quite so sure that East Valley Road is your front yard, if you know what I mean. It's an odd lot. I drive by here quite often. But so anyways, are you okay with that? Please?
Yeah, I think first of all, Tatiana's comment, if we were going to add a garage, yeah, we'd be outside of the setbacks and redo that. So that'll be one little sketch we'll do for, we'll do a carport over there somewhere that of course is going to be fun to work with whatever we're doing with the house. So, I just don't want to do a block over there and a nice house here. So that'll be one idea. The other idea will be if we could get the parking under that thing, it'd be great. We planned it at one time. We do need to keep our foundation right where that line is, that diamond line on the southwest there. That's the limit there, that dark line there. So yeah, we can start scooting around and change the building. But just so we can go be productive here is maybe come back with some versions, concept A, B, and C, because I'll get to the detail later, right, of the architecture. And then maybe I could throw in some temporary landscape thoughts with a landscape architect. Does that sound good?
I think that my experience with this board is everybody knows what they're looking at. The plants can come in later. I'm sure that two of my friends here will, but yeah, let's see some ideas. And also, why don't you see whether or not a PLOT has to be within that line, the top of bank line, or whether or not it can be somewhere else? Because it's, I'm thinking about 18 inches maybe.
Yeah, flood is put down the line.
Okay,
There, yeah.
very good, whatever.
So further
Thanks.
concept.
Further concept quickly, or you want to get back on after?
Quickly, we're going to go back to the office right now.
Oh, next meeting, is that possible?
We still have room so it's 3 weeks actually.
3 weeks.
Things
We'll do it. We're on.
on the 5th.
Oh, yeah, let's try that and we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, item number 2, Shelby, we had a site visit today, the McManigal Living Trust. We have a public comment on that. Also coming down. Shelby, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Shelby Jenke from SEPS. I'm here with, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Eric Eichelberger, Arcadia Studio.
Great. I'll just do a quick introduction. I want to start by just saying thank you for taking time to come visit the site this morning and view the story polls. We really appreciate that. We're back here for further conceptual. Our team has taken your comments from our last meeting into consideration, and we're excited to show you our updated plan set with our responses to your comments. I'd also like to mention that since our last meeting, we've also been coordinating with Duke McPherson, an arborist. He's been out to the site to take a look at the existing oak trees, and we'll be working on a tree protection plan with some new oaks that we'll be planting around the site. And we look forward to hearing your comments today. We're still working on our completeness with our assigned project planner, but we're hoping for your positive comments to come back for preliminary approval once we do have a complete application with planning. Tom, I'll pass it off to you.
Would you like to hear how we address the different comments from last time, or just generally go through the drawings? They're similar to what you saw before.
So how did you soften the motor court, please?
Eric, do you want to?
You want to throw the landscape plan up? There we go. We took a couple of feet off the corners and we have a much more naturalistic edge now. And we're going to have low ground covers that kind of creep over that edge as well.
And sinking the motor court was a suggestion,
Not-
yes, no?
Not really feasible. We're just bringing it up to where it was before. And we really can't go down and back up to get to the front door.
Study dormers?
Yes, there was one dormer, there was a shed dormer on the east side of the garage. You see in the lower right hand of the image, and we changed it to a gable dormer so it matches the other dormers. And that was really the only outlier.
Study refined topography and finished floor elevations after the input from flood control. Yes?
Yeah. Flood control is the one that gave us the elevation you're seeing there, and you saw it at the job site for the house. The garage can be lower because it's not habitable. So the garage is staying about where it was before in finished floor elevation, and the house is going up maybe 3.5 feet. We don't know for sure because so much ground was scoured out during the mud flow.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Sorry.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before?
Unless just generally the house is in the same place as before, roughly the same size. The height of the house is within a foot of what the other house was, but the previous house had 18-foot high walls on 4 sides, and we took the 2 eave sides and brought the pitch way down to have 1-story, one-ish story walls on the front and the back. Generally, the style is New England, East Coast, friendly. I think that's probably it.
Questions? Rob, please.
I don't have any questions.
Robert,
No questions.
Bill,
Derek, could you, in front of the garages, have like little planter pockets or something like that? Is there anything to kind of help green that side, or the doors go from, what does that elevation look like?
Aesthetic.
Yeah, or pots or something, just to kind of add a little bit of green to that. Okay. And then I'm assuming you're going to have flood vents. So
Yeah.
that'll be a detail.
On the garage.
Right, on the garage, so that'll have to, and under floor area, unless you're doing a slab, are you doing?
Slab. It'll be slab.
Okay, okay.
Bless you.
Bless you, that's it, thanks.
Stacy, please. Questions?
I think I'm okay. I don't have any questions.
Robert, let's see. Who did I miss? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. John, I have no questions. Public comment, Mark, please.
Mr. Chair, honorable board members, my name is Mark Lloyd from LMP Consultants. I represent the neighbor to the west, or the neighboring properties, 2 neighboring properties, 337, 339 Hot Springs, and we strongly support the project. Encourage you to approve it through conceptual and send it for preliminary and final. We love the architecture and endorse the project wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so anybody else, please?
No additional requests.
Okay, so this is the second time we've seen it. We are on for concept. Rob, comments, please.
Going to the site was helpful because from the first time I saw it, it was my impression interpretation was quite different. So the site's beautiful. I think the project's lovely. It fits nicely into the site. There's no impacts. I would support you. I would like to see it moved along, and would support you to kind of come back with preliminary final if the rest of the board is amicable to that. But I like the project and think it's going to be successful.
Robert, please.
I would concur. I love the traditional architecture and It just seems like Montecito to me, so I support the project and bring it back for prelim final on consent.
Bill,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a wonderful project. Looks good. I would encourage whatever you can get into that driveway area with a little bit more greenery. That would be about all I'd ask for. The rest of it looks great. Thanks.
Stacy.
Yeah, I can support this going to preliminary and final. I think it sits on the site really well. I think seeing it as well, that it's going to feel like it's at the natural grade once it's in. And I don't think it has any impacts other than positive impacts on the neighbors from what they can see and what you already have around you. So I can definitely support it.
I also support it, but unlike on consent, I think it's too big of a project. It has too far to go. You know, I'm sure it's going to get there. I'm sure it's going to be fine, but to pick it up on consent, so I'd like to see it preliminary final at the full board. And then we'll just, you know, colors, light fixtures, low, you know, all of it. Okay, we'll see you back when you, Sam says you can.
Hey, thank you.
Okay. Okay, item number 3, thank you, guys. Item number 3, 1190 Hill Road. You should send it over to Stacy. Stacy, this is your fill project. Fill project. Yeah, go look at the agenda. Please go. She's got Phil.
Right.
But they need a building permit first. So, okay, 1190 Hill Road, are you ready?
Yes. All right, just waiting for Mark.
I apologize, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Yes, please,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Mark Lloyd, L&P Consultants, representing the applicant. This is a project to set cottages R&S that are being moved from the Biltmore under 24 AMD 0007's approval to place them permanently on this property at 1190 Hill Road. And these are two historic original Johnson structures that we plan to put together. This floor plan is the combined floor plan with the two cottages put together, and to place them at 1190 Hill Road as a single family dwelling. I have Michael and Patrick here from EDMA to present the architecture today.
Michael Stroh with DMHA.
Patrick Hausch, DMHA.
If you could, David, if you could go to the existing site plan, that'd be great. It should be page, or actually go to the aerial site plan. It should be page 2, if you don't mind. Keep going back. They all separate. Oh, okay. All right, so just go to the site photos then. So we have an existing site just north of the Biltmore, which currently there's some tennis courts and a tennis pavilion and a small parking lot and driveway. And the intention here is to take the two, it's zoned for single family. And so we've looked at the two existing bungalows and looked at how they're built and how they're structured and how we could move them to this site and then combine them into what amounts to a single-family residence. And so if you go to the next. So this is the existing site, actually. There's an existing sidewalk here, and you can see the tennis pavilion behind there. Go to the next slide. This is the existing gate and wall that runs along Hill Road. It's an existing brick wall of about 6 feet, and then there's some existing gates there as well, vehicle and man gates. And you can see it's got a nice brick walk that comes out. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So you can see portions of the existing parking lot and driveway that are there. The site does kind of slope up from the area around the gates. It's about 46, and then our new proposed finished floor is going to be at about 50, which is just barely above existing grade. Next slide here, if you don't mind. So these are this is one of the bungalows. You can see they're simple. They're stucco or plaster, sorry, with wood windows and shutters and slate roof tiles. And so the intention is we'll build a new foundation and essentially cut the end wall off of each of them and merge them. Our intention is not to alter the existing fenestration or openings significantly, and we've managed to actually create a plan that incorporates that and leaves these mostly intact. And so if you go to the next, you can see they've been left. They're not in amazing condition, but they will be repaired as part of this process and reestablished on the other site. So if you go to the next slide. Yeah. And just kind of scroll through. We've got a couple more. Yeah. Yeah. So now if you could go to the proposed site plan, we'll talk about how this comes in. So conceptually, well, actually, sorry, go back one. So conceptually, you can see, again, this is the existing driveway coming off of Hill Road. You've got the existing brick wall. We've put together a rendering above that of sort of how this house sits from the public point of view. You can see it's set back behind the wall. It isn't significantly taller, and then there are a large number of trees and pieces of existing landscape that will screen it from Hill Road. And we're maintaining the existing drive, the existing gate, and the existing man gate. If you go to the site plan, that'd be great. So what you can see is what we've done is we've actually reconfigured. We've turned each one so that we actually have an existing bedroom and an existing bedroom that joins, which is at the top of the drawing there. And created a courtyard entry off of the existing walk that comes in. And that will allow us to sort of, again, maintain that existing footprint. And it sits nestled in the site, kind of well back. It sits along the front yard setback. And then it actually is just pulled off to have a backyard behind the residence. And then we are proposing to add a small garage, a 2-car garage in the front, and reutilize the existing driveway, but by demolishing the remainder of the existing parking lot that's there. So significantly reducing the amount of paving that's on that site currently. And obviously the tennis courts, which are on the right-hand side, and the tennis pavilion that's there, those will both be demolished. And then the site will be benched out on the northern side. If you go to the floor plans, please. This all got separated. There we go. So essentially, there's a there's a dividing line, if you will, sort of centered on the opening into the living room. And that's where the two existing cabanas will come together. We are stripping out the majority of the interior walls. We've been looking at this structurally, and we're able to shear the inside of the existing exterior walls and remove the shear walls from the interior. And by doing so, that frees us up to develop, a primary bedroom and office wing with a kid's bedroom on one side. We have the living room with an open kitchen, and then we have a dining room, a formal dining room that also flanks the courtyard, and then we have 3 bedrooms off of that. So in the end, you end up with a 5-bedroom house that's about 4,800 square feet. And then if you could go to the elevations. So as you can see, it's we're maintaining the existing architecture. We aren't changing roofs. We aren't changing anything. The idea is that the plaster would be fully repaired and or replaced. Windows and doors would be fully replaced. Refurbishment and or new shutters to match what was historically there. New slate roof to sit on top of the building, and then brick chimneys to match what was existing. And with that, I yield back to the board.
Yeah, if we could just go to the grading plan for a bit.
Oh, sorry.
So again, where the house is going, there's not much grading differential happening in there. We have some potential export coming to the property, which we would fill over the tennis court. I would note that to the east is the Biltmore parking lot. And we have a slope, a 3-to-1 slope there on what would be the lower part of the site here. And then to the north, we're also adding fill in this backyard area. And I would note that the grade differential there is about 2 feet as you start moving to the right, and then with a gentle 3-to-1 slope that goes down to the rear yard and the railroad track there. So the grading that's happening is not raising the site considerably higher than the neighboring property to the west. A little bit higher to the neighboring property to the east, which is the Biltmore parking lot.
Is that it?
That's it.
Questions, Bill?
So Mark, if you want to explain again, so the house pad is going to stay, and then currently the tennis courts are below. Is that a retaining wall there?
Yeah, it's about a 6-foot retaining wall.
It's 6 feet. That's why. Okay. I was wondering if it was a couple feet, maybe it wouldn't be.
It's like 6 feet.
6 foot, and that's why you're bringing the fill in. Is the site wall in the front historic too? Is that considered?
No, that's a rather recent addition back in the 60s or 70s.
And with the connection of the 2 Reginald Johnson structures, do you need a historic report for that?
We're anticipating supplementing the historic studies that we did before on these to confirm that the planned combination of the houses sustains the historic integrity and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards. We wanted to get through concept before we had that report done so that we could confirm that the configurations were acceptable.
That'd be Alex Cole or somebody like.
It would be Amber Long, who did all our historic work already at the Biltmore.
Okay, and we don't have that yet so far. Okay.
And she actually did the relocation plan for moving these structures, not part of this application, but just to keep continuity of that historic work.
Got it. Okay, thanks. That's it.
Robert, please, questions?
Can you go to the Google? I'm trying to understand. So how many tennis courts are there now, and how many would be left?
I think it's 0 left, right?
There's 0 left. And there'd be 2 tennis courts. There are 2 tennis courts there now, I believe.
And they're gone.
Yes.
Anything else, Robert?
No, that's it.
Okay, Stacy, please.
Is the purpose, you said it's for a single family dwelling and that's what it's zoned for. Is the purpose to be part of the Biltmore, like as a separate rental, just a separate residence period?
Yeah, it's not part of the CRV zone district that would be needed to be rezoned to have Biltmore affiliated hotel use there.
Okay.
Single family lot, so we're combining into a single family dwelling.
Okay, at this time, I think that's, and obviously we haven't gotten into landscape or anything yet. You're just here for conceptual review on just the structures.
Correct. Those landscape plans are being prepared now.
Got it. That's it.
Rob?
First of all, hi, Patrick. I haven't seen you in like 20 years, so, and anyways, so I see the elevation that you folks showed me. And what, kind of strikes me, it started to make me ask the question that, are your hands tied in terms of these structures and what you're able to do? Because I start seeing, like the way the driveway and garage and walkways kind of come into this property. And then this whole section of this property that's not used, and I just kind of start to wonder, it seems like that things could be laid out in a manner that would just be far more advantageous for capturing kind of the best qualities of the property, and maybe even, how you modify the architecture rather than trying to put two halves together. You're introducing some taller architectural element that creates some hierarchy. So I'm just wondering whether there's some, opportunities being lost in this kind of push to try to save these buildings. And so so my question is, are you tied to trying to save these buildings, or is there other opportunities that you could explore if you're not tied to that?
Well, we are
Long
tied
question.
to saving the buildings. They are historic buildings that need to be protected. They cannot be demolished and documented.
But I mean, but as you add, now that you've torn them apart, you've basically taken away the integrity in one sense of the building as its own. And so doesn't that free you up to then add some other architectural aspect to that then would be compatible with that architecture, that maybe there's opportunities there that are not being taken advantage of? I guess that's
Indeed,
what I'm
you can do
saying.
that as long as, I think the changes in fenestrations, doors, or other elements that were introduced were deemed to be consistent
Okay.
with the historic integrity.
Um,
Certainly, you can alter
And
aspects of the building.
yeah, and I was just reacting to the walkway and the way the kind of driveway and garage kind of came into. I'm just wondering whether there's better ways to site all that stuff and kind of integrate the whole thing that are not being taken advantage of. So
But we did want to use the site to some extent as it's been used in the past. We didn't want to introduce a new driveway on the opposite side. That impacts the neighbor there. So we're wanting to fit this into the neighborhood with the least disturbance to the neighborhood.
and no notion of saving one of the tennis courts, or trying to save that is too much expense and trying to retrofit it, or is it all beat up or something at this point?
It's pretty beat up.
All right, thank you.
They haven't been used for decades.
I'm going to be really interested to see the historical report, because what's being presented is probably brand new exterior plaster, new roof, new windows and doors. So what do we got, studs? Is that a historical building?
Well, we're not saying that there's new windows and doors in it. We're sustaining
You
those.
say you were probably going to replace the doors and windows?
as necessary. I mean, whatever we have that's existing, that's still in place.
So
would be-
I don't know if there's a possibility for you guys to do something, but it seems to me, from everything I know about construction, it's going to cost twice the amount to replicate this if you build it new. So, and so the
I'm not
question
hearing you.
is, don't you agree?
I'm not hearing you, Mr. Chair.
What?
I'm not hearing you.
Wouldn't it be easier to replicate these than to try to save them, given the age and the probable extent of replacement of almost every element on the building? That's the question.
We have a historical report from another project that says that these two buildings need to be sustained.
Saved, okay.
I'll take it that our hands are tied to that. And
I'd like to just do a little pause. Robert, are you going to be able to stay for the whole meeting? Bill?
Yeah.
Something happened, I have to leave. So Bill, would you take over?
Okay.
Good luck with that, guys.
thank you.
Can I ask one more question? I'd swear I saw 5 pairs of French doors on the floor plan. And I only see 3 pairs here.
Let's go to the floor plan and see where those are at.
There's more than 3.
So one of them is hidden, actually, based on the elevation that you're looking at. When you look from the courtyard side, you're only going to see those 3 central ones. And the one that's off to the bottom on this plan,
You're not seeing
you
it,
wouldn't see because the other wing extends out beyond it.
but you would still see. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
And when you got in the courtyard, you'd see all 4 of those, obviously.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, did we ask Dave for, was there public comment? Looks like we have one hand raised there. Did you fill out a slip? Okay, maybe after you speak, you can give us a speaker slip. You want to come up? We'll give you 3 minutes to talk.
Okay, hi. My name is Hugh Schenk. I'm the neighbor of this property. I own 1170 and 1168 Hill Road. First of all, that was a lovely presentation, and I'd actually like to compliment their design concept. And I think it's fantastic that they're helping out with the preservation, even if perhaps thoroughly refurbished to the point of being new, at least maintaining the architectural style that was present in the neighborhood. And I'd also like to address the point that was made about the siting. I think as a 25-year resident of Hill Road, it is actually very consistent and appropriate with the way other homes are sited on the block. I had intended to speak negatively of the project, but I have to admit I'm quite impressed. However, the one concern that I have, which I feel is significant, still remains, which is the excessive amount of fill material that they're proposing to add to the property. My initial concern, of course, was elevating the property at the expense of my privacy. However, with the siding of the house, that seems to be fairly mitigated. But there are significant other concerns regarding the natural topography of the lot, which gives rise to the name of the street being Hill Road. So significantly altering that does alter the character of the property, I think. It is not really serving any particular aim. It is not other than, I guess, enhancing the walkable perimeter around the house, and it creates a rather steep drainage slope at the east side of the property. So I'm concerned about thoroughly investigating the hydrological impacts of that proposal. I am critical of the motives for the need for that amount of fill. And I would also like to point out that the eucalyptus grove, which is bordering the property along the railroad easement, as well as my property, historically serves as monarch habitat. And there are also, although I cannot identify the location, there is a historic population of burrowing foxes in the area. So that amount of fill, for those reasons, also brings up some environmental concerns. I have a submission for you outlining my position on those matters, as well as references to all of the legal requirements for studies and permissions granted at the state and federal level regarding those issues. So I'd like to present that right now.
Thank you, Mr. Schenk. Yeah, they're in the back there. Okay, let's go to, was there anyone else online that raised their hand? Anybody?
No additional speakers.
Okay, so close public comment and we'll go to the board for comments. Stacy, what are your comments?
Well, it's hard to do a complete assessment without a landscape plan. I think that that'll bring to light more how the entire lot and how the house will be presented to the street, and to the adjacent neighbor, less impact to the parking lot. I hear the neighbor and his concerns about the fill, but now he's not as concerned because the siding is towards the front of the lot. And I think that actually helps explain some of the siding too. Trying to still study though to understand a little bit what, why the fill and the 3-to-1 slope off the back where, have flat tennis courts. I feel like the house seems a little awkward being just joined together in the middle. And a little odd on the floor plan with the primary bedroom being so enormous, but that's not really a concern of the board. But I think it just needs further review with a landscape plan. I don't have immediate objections at this point to just the architecture and the siting.
Okay, thank you. Rob, what are your thoughts?
Could we go to the site plan, please? Could you kindly, yeah, that's great. Thank you. I guess I'm struggling a little bit with feeling like that with the amount of construction, and I know you're trying to save things within the realm of trying to save the building, that I think architecturally it needs something in the middle. It just feels so stretched out to me that that maybe they're joined with some other architectural piece. I like the courtyard premise. And I just wonder whether, whether it's sited properly or it could be rotated, or at least if that all stays in the same place, the driveway and the garage and the walkways kind of, they feel left over and they don't feel like they basically, so I think it's an opportunity to kind of look at that and design that with a little bit of a fresh eye and lay that out. Maybe maybe you can stop that driveway from going all the way across the front and where the garage is situated. I think there's just some other opportunities to explore that need to be explored, or convince me that this is the best way to kind of go about it. I'm just not there yet with what I see, but appreciate, like I said, the courtyard, there's some good pieces to it, but I think there's some opportunities being lost. So, and the landscape plan, that may help kind of pull that all together, a good hardscape landscape plan, kind of to help identify, how this property is to kind of be used and how it works, because it seems like it's not quite working yet. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Robert, your comments?
I would concur that it's somewhat awkward. Maybe that massive master bedroom needs a fireplace and a chimney. I don't know, but it looks very word I'm looking for, unarticulated. And I think there are other opportunities, and the 3-to-1 slope, I think, is unnecessary. That's a steep slope. You could go 2-to-1 easily. So, I just have, some concerns about the grading. And, the architecture could be spruced up. And, that's about it.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah, I think that the landscaping is going to go a long way with this. I think that I appreciate you're trying to reuse a lot of the existing site paths and driveways. But I think that courtyard is kind of underutilized and then really could be a nice space, and the way you get to it from the garage and how close the garage is to the kitchen and, all the flow of all that stuff, I think needs to just kind of get a little bit, thought out, and how do you do it? Is it a nice pathway? Is it aligned with trees? What's in the courtyard? Is there a fountain? I think all these things are going to kind of help that aspect of it. I'm not opposed to redoing the Reginald Johnson design. I think it's simple and attractive, so I don't have any problem with that. In terms of the grading and to the neighbor's point, maybe you don't hold the flat part of the lot out so far. Maybe it comes out and it terraces and terraces and terraces, and so you're not bringing as much fill in, and maybe there's a way to kind of soften that a bit more. So I think, further investigation of that, tweaking would be warranted. Now you're here for concept review. I would say further concept to come back.
And just one other thing is that there's no backyard right now. And so that's where I wonder if the structure can be kind of moved on the lot somewhere where you start. I mean, you've got kind of between the parking and the walkway, you've kind of got this no man's land. And so if the structure was pulled forward and all that, you start to create, a backyard and, that can be usable places for that property that would make somebody want to buy it.
And the garage, it's inefficient, I think, to put it, its back is to the structure. It seems awkward to do the garage in that manner. I mean, I know we always say, oh, we don't want to enter, we call it a snout house where I come from, when the garage is very forward. But I think in this case, because you're coming in, I would play with the garage placement so that it has more of a relationship with the court and the rest of the house too. Right now, it just turns its back entirely to the structure. And when you come out, you're just looking at the side and the back. It doesn't speak to architecture that all comes together.
I think about the flow of the space and how you're getting from the garage to the house and through the courtyard and the uses of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, we knew we were coming to our first conceptual here. We haven't, as I said, the landscape plan is being developed as a conceptual landscape plan for now. Didn't really want to upset a lot of the hardscape on here, but they're just placeholders. Really what we were looking for is direction on the house and how we're putting it together and the grading. We can work with the neighbor next door, reduce the grading or the height of the grading in the back, step it down. Like you said, we wanted to get some area, off of the house. And then, we don't really want to move the house any further to the railroad track because we've got that noise element there. And I would also point out that there are drainage benches on each of the east and west property line to take what little water ends up on those slopes and direct them on our property and put them to the established drainage flow that's really in the railroad right away. So again, what we're looking for is guidance that putting this together, keeping it up in the area it is. Appreciate the other aspects of your comments that we'll look at. And then I'm hearing reduce the grading a little bit in height, perhaps. And then this next submittal, we'd like to really come at it. But this one was just to get your guidance and your confirmation, if you will, of what we're doing here.
All right.
Very much.
Thank you. Okay. Go on to item number 4, 139 Olive Mill Road. Do we have applicant here?
You do.
Daryl? Okay.
Hi.
Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, Daryl Becker with Becker Studios, together with Derek Eichelberger from Arcadia Studios. We're presenting 139 Olive Mill. It's a small 202 square foot addition. It's a small second story bedroom to an existing structure. And I'll direct you to, I guess the first page, which is our FAR calcs. This would put the house at 105% of FAR. We've done an informal neighborhood study, and adjacent homes are 101, ours being 105. The one across the street at 112, two down at 118, and a couple up above at 136. So we feel like this small expansion isn't out of the norm of the neighborhood. On page 2 of the plans, we've got photographs of the house, which you've got, I think you just had it pulled up, I'm sorry. House is well screened from the street. The upper left photo is inside the gate, and the second photo from the left shows the two-story element of the house, and then there's a small portion to the left. That is where we're intending to add on a bedroom, which is directly over the third photo, the fountain. And so just to kind of move things along, I'll direct you to PDF 11 or sheet 11, A311. And this gives you an idea of the existing above and the proposed below. The area of the house is just a bedroom infill over the front entry door. And the next sheet, I believe, shows the rear. I'm sorry, this is this would be the south elevation. And then the next one would be the rear. So you get an idea. The center is this, there's a dining room section in the upper elevation, the west elevation. And then below, we would be expressing that bedroom over the second floor area. I don't think you guys would be that concerned about the floor plan, but if you would like to take a look at that, we can go to sheet 10 or 8.
No, thank you. No, thank you. I'm back, Kimberly. No,
Right.
thanks. Let's just keep going.
Okay, John, then we'll go straight back to materials. The materialism is existing. It's on sheet 3, A0.2. Should be the next. They don't seem to have the finishes. I don't know why, but you don't seem to have the finishes there. We're matching all existing finishes, which include existing terracotta antique tiles, two-piece tiles, plaster's integral color. The color of that's a Benjamin Moore LRV 85 integral color. The trim is midnight oil existing, and all the woods are natural woods, and we have existing luminance night sky compliant lighting. So we're here for conceptual approval. We'd like to move forward with this board's approval. There's no landscape and no grading for the project.
Question, Stacy, please.
Can we look, okay, here we are, the back elevation. I'm just trying to figure out how this roof is coming together on the roof line.
Okay, this is an accessory structure. This is the, yes, okay, this is the back elevation, correct?
Yeah, I did. I looked at it.
He's got it right there in elevation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, okay, just piece it together. All right, I don't really have questions.
Rob, questions, please.
I'm still absorbing and processing, so.
Bill, questions, please.
Yeah, you had mentioned an LRV of 85, or do you mean under 84?
I'm sorry. It's LRV point, the Benjamin Moore Cloud White is 85, maybe it is 84. Can you look it up?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, it's existing.
Is that what you
That's
got?
all-
for-
that's all I
Yeah,
got.
wow. Okay,
That's all I
Robert,
got.
questions, please?
No questions.
And I have no questions. Public comment, please. Is there anybody that would like it to address the board on item number 4, 139 Olive Mill Road, please.
No requests.
Okay, so I guess we'll do it in order. Stacy, comments, please.
I mean, it does bulk out the building. It's a little bit awkward, I think, on the roof line and sort of takes away some of the charm. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm going to leave this more to the architects on the board to really pick apart.
Rob, have you figured out anything here?
Yeah, like, can I see the site plan, please? Yeah, Daryl, this is one of the, I mean, again, this project, I think, is crying for a hardscape landscape concept to give the property and the house and everything life. What's up with the pool? Is that brand new pool and that's elevated, or what's going on there?
Right, so why don't we go back to the images of the street view, which would be sheet 2. The house is completely screened from the street in the 3 photos, in the middle photos. Those are the 3 middle photos. You guys can drive by this property, but this is a well-landscaped property. It was done by Grace Designs about 3 or 4 years ago. It requires no landscape. There's a separate permit in the rear yard for a pool that's already been processed. So that the property is elegantly landscaped, and all we're doing is adding a bedroom for their 3rd child.
Okay.
Second
All right,
floor.
my bad. Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was just not coming through with that
Yeah,
site plan, and I wasn't
represented
picking
the
up that,
existing
so.
condition better. That's my fault.
Yeah, so I really have nothing to add at this point, so.
Comments, Bill, please.
Yeah, no, I can approve the addition of the bedroom. I think it fits in fine. I mean, it's a unusual roofs that you're dealing with, but I think you've done a nice job of that. So I don't have any problem. I could easily give it concept approval.
Robert, comments?
I like the architecture, old world, it's Montecito. I can support this project.
I suggest preliminary final on consent. Is everybody good with that?
Sounds good.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you
So
all.
we'll see you on
Appreciate it.
consent.
All right, thank you.
Okay, do you guys want to take 5 or do you want to,
We have 4 here.
anybody? We have 4, keep going. Okay, item number 5, 865 Romero Canyon Road. Rob Fowler stepped out for a minute.
Okay. Yes, again, this is Daryl Becker and Derek Eichelberger, representing the owner of Lucky 7 Family Trust, 865 Romero Canyon. If the board's ready, I'm happy to present it.
Yeah, go.
Okay, great. So this is, it's a bit involved plan. This is a house that has been remodeled through the centuries here. And the proposed changes to the project are, they fall into a number of categories. So I'm just going to give you an overview. It's door and window changes, roof replacement, a small 2nd floor addition at the rear of the property, a new pool cabana adjacent to a previously approved pool. There's an aviary at the back of the property that was built without a permit. It's a little bit over the 120 square feet, so we're permitting it, its conversion to an office. And then we're also doing landscape and hardscape site improvements. As well, we have a conceptual grading plan because there is a little bit of grading related to the pool and the rear yard. If you'll go to, let me just, sheet 7, which is site photos. This is a series of photos of the existing house. So in the top left corner, this is the main entry to the residence. There are two driveways leading to the residence, but this is where you end up. There's a turnaround around the oak tree in the center. And then on the second row left, that is the original house. It's sort of a low-slung hacienda ranch style house. And anyway, the rest of these photos are expressions of that. I think it's best if we jump straight to elevation. So I'd love to take you to sheet 18, which is A3.10, the south elevation. And so we've laid this out so it's easy to see the existing elevation and then the proposed elevation down below. And we've been working to try to sort through different materialism on the house. And this building was originally a small ranch style hacienda, and it had a barn. And then there were pieces added to the barn. And so as this house grew, it sort of lost its identity, if you will. We have a mix of architectural styles, so we're kind of removing some of that. For example, on the proposed south elevation, the right side of the drawing, there's a sort of a gambrel style roof there, and we're going to just make that a regular gable. And we are going to add some stone on the building on some of these more demure elevations to add some texture. The majority of the building is either plaster or wide plank redwood siding. And so we're going to try to harvest and reuse all the redwood siding where we can and install it on a vertical plane instead of horizontal. I'll take you to the next sheet, which takes us around the building. This is perhaps the least attractive side of the building, which faces nothing. It faces a side yard, so it's not really seen from anywhere. Again, on the left-hand side, we have under the proposed, we have a little piece of the old building, a shed area that goes to the kitchen. We're going to make a connection there. It looks like a stable now, so we're going to add a door and a window there. And then we have a bedroom door, and then we have this bathroom wing. And then to the right, we have a living room. So if we go to the next elevation, the building wraps around, and this is the rear elevation facing the rear yard. And this is where the addition occurs on the second floor. So we have the existing north elevation, again, converting that gambrel style roof on the left, adding a piece to the center of the old barn section, which covers a porch and sort of optimizes the second floor, gives us a more formal structure. But that lower level is the living room that goes out to the rear yard. And then we'll go to the next sheet, which is, this is the entry. As we were showing before, we put an image up here on the right-hand corner, gives you an idea of what that entry experience is. Very understated. We're going to try to define that with a new entry element. And then as you come across the building, there's a large arch window where the kitchen is, adding some elegance to that as well. And then the right part of the building is the old hacienda of the house. So this is a big restoration project. The majority of the project, as I indicated earlier, is replacing specific doors and windows all around the house. The next sheet, hang on 1 second. Yes, this gives you an idea of the, on the left side, the older hacienda part of the house. We've got currently a mix of 3-tab shingle. It's sort of a brownish color, and we'd like to use a dimensional shingle roof on it. And then where we have lower 1.5 and 12 pitch existing sheds, we're going to go with, proposing to go with the standing seam bonderized metal. Just so it's very subtle. We considered copper and other colors, but after putting them on site and looking at them, given the informal nature of the house, we felt these colors were probably most appropriate. So at the bottom of this A3.14, you'll see the proposed east elevation.
Oh, yeah, just say C, like
Sorry, you're on it, on this sheet. Um, And then Derek, I'm going to bump over to, well, let's move over real quick, sorry, to the Campania, which is sheet 26. So why don't we go to two more sheets, which are the elevations. I'll take it there first. So this is a small pool cabana. It's kind of nestled up into the grade. And again, it's intended to mimic the stable components on the site. It's a board and bat structure, again, colors to match the existing residence, which will be a softer off-white. I'll take you through the finished colors. And then if you go to sheet 31, I'll take you to the small office. So this building is in the AV area. It was, I don't know, built without a permit. I'm not sure when. It looks very old, but it's a screened-in structure, and the intention here is simply to convert this to an on-site office. Again, mimicking some of the other, let's call it service buildings, the stable buildings, the less important, less formal buildings on site. And then last but not least, or second to last, I'll take you to the civil drawings, which would be the 36th page. This kind of gives you an overview of the grading plan. If you'll go to the next sheet. And I'll just describe these buildings so you understand a little bit better from a site plan. I know there's a lot going on here. We have the existing garage and existing workroom at the bottom of the property. There's no work specified there. We have the main house, which I've walked you around. We only have the small addition on the second floor of the rear of the main house. There is a barn stable building with a apartment that was built, I don't know when, back in history. And we're legally converting that apartment to an ADU under a separate permit. And then if you'll move up on this sheet on the site plan, you'll see the small cabana in the rear yard and the pool. And then that dark shaded structure there is the aviary or bird coop, as this is popping up as. And then Derek, let me bump over to you on the landscape. I think landscape sheet is page 35 of this submittal. Derek, you're muted.
Derek, are you here, please? Derek?
Sorry about that. Is there a real landscape plan? I can work from this one. This is the hydrozone plan, but if there's the other drawing in the set, I'd prefer that one.
It looks like that's all we have for this.
Okay, that's fine.
You guys done then, please?
No, I do my presentation.
Oh, okay. I thought it.
Go ahead, Derek.
So as Daryl showed you, there's two driveways that come to the house. And the one which I'm calling the front is the one to the right of the drawing. And that's where the main entry is. That's where guests will generally be coming in and entering the house. There's an existing courtyard there already. You saw an image with the rock wall that runs along there. It's a beautiful wall, but it's really imposing on both sides of it. So we're proposing to take that down about 18 inches. And so the courtyard will feel more inviting. Right now it's all paved. We're breaking out that paving and having just just a small seating area, a fountain, and a more delineated entry. We're gonna puncture the wall in the center. Right now, it's to the north, so the path to that entry will be more direct. And then when you go to the other motor court, the one to the south, right now, as Daryl indicated, you can drive all the way around that oak tree that's in the middle. And we had the idea to start with create two series of experiences behind that oak tree. One is like a step down walkway from the main entry along the other entries to the house, because the house steps down in that same area. And we have a small fire pit area out there. There's a beautiful sycamore that kind of pops out of that terrace. And then we closed off the direct access to cars to the front door. So there'll be more of a landscaped entry right now than in the future than there is right now. And as you move to the left of the drawing, about in the center, looks to be a seating area that is there now. We're just enhancing that space. And then we've designed a new pool, spa, and cabana area, which Daryl's already alluded to. So that's about it. Material-wise, it's the Romero Canyon area, which has tons of huge boulders and very naturalistic landscape there now, which the owners want to enhance and use as a model for the future development. That's it.
And Daryl, you're done also, please?
No, the only thing I want to add to this is back to sheet 9. We have a complete exterior concept material board, which we should touch on. And it involves, just starting at the left, just a representation of the existing building, this dimensional shingle. We're trying not to over stylize this house because it is rustic in nature. And then redoing all the different windows. We have a whole window schedule. We've gone through every window. Many will be repaired, and the ones that won't be repaired will be replaced, and they're fully specified. We have our paint specification with Dune White LRV 80.18, and then we've got night sky compliant pictures that we'll be putting on the building, and just some representations of the type of mix of windows and doors that we're planning to put on site, as well as just general materialism with the natural stone on site. So that pretty much concludes the overall conceptual submittal.
Questions? Robert, please.
Daryl, have you considered an alternative to that kind of ugly low slope shed roof?
The low pitched roof, are you saying on the right-hand side of the house?
Yeah, it's on the north, and what would the other side be? I don't know. Would it be a problem with the upstairs or something? I mean, as long as you're remodeling, I mean, I'm just curious if you could kind of fix that up.
Well, that's something we certainly can consider. I can take a look at that.
Okay, no more questions.
Bill.
Is the aviary in the setback, or what is now the office? Is that in the setback or is it outside?
No, it's just outside the setback. It actually just touches the line at the back corner.
And you have 150 cubic yards of cut and fill, which isn't a lot. Where is that actually happening? Is it?
Well, it's happening mainly with the pool itself.
The cabana there, maybe?
We're cutting the cabana into that right grade. We've got a
Okay.
sectional through here.
Okay. And then the impetus for the arched windows, I didn't see any arches anywhere. First of all, are those in a plaster wall or a wood wall, and why arched and not a flat window?
That's That's actually a great question. It's a bit of a whimsy, if you will, but we were studying this whole rear elevation, and everything came up from contemporizing it and putting large nano doors to open the inside to the outside, to trying to balance out the rear yard and the furniture plan. And so we came across some very large radius doors, and so they're using that to sort of anchor the usable door in the center. And so this happens, I believe, in the rear elevation section on sheet 20. If you want to flip to that, we can take a quick look at it. I think it's two back. So right now, there are 4 large plate glass picture windows, which actually give no homage, if you will, back to the original barn feel of this lower section of this building. So this is sort of a relic piece of the building that got added onto, and we're trying to balance this out. So what we did is we've stacked these 2 door sections over the center with the upstairs master suite and down below. And then the clients came up with these 2 sort of whimsical arches at the sides. And so that's where they came from. Faces the rear of the site. A little different, but we like it.
Thank you.
Stacy, questions, please.
Just trying to, without the actual landscape plan, just working off of the hydrozone plan, I think it's good that you're reducing that wall height as you come in. You said, Derek, that was just 18 inches that you're taking off of that big wall as you approach in?
Yep.
Correct. And removing all of the hardscapes in front of the house so that you don't just drive right up to the door any longer and coming through. That looks good. And are you more or less just keeping all of the native natural areas just untouched? It looks like no irrigation, and just maintaining kind of the status quo in the greater realm?
Yeah, for the time being, that's our goal, is just around the house and to the pool area. Where the pool's going is just a big open dirt flat area.
Okay. Yeah, no, that looks, I mean, I'm looking at the size and the scales, and that, yeah, that seems to work. So is it mainly because you don't have plant pellets or anything on here? Obviously, your sheet got left out, and I get that. Is it mainly like just a native or Mediterranean compatible palette?
They like how wild it is, and most of it's native that's have established themselves. I don't think anybody ever planted them, and with a few exotics here and there.
Hey, Derek, it might help to go to sheet 10 because we've got a good site plan there. There's a lot of native oaks and other,
I can see that.
Correct.
Yes, yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, I was looking and checking that out with great detail, but it was nicely done because it really gives the aerial underneath. Yeah, no, it seems like a very covered, if anything, it looks like the approach is pretty sensitive at this point. Is that how you would declare it? Okay.
Yep.
No, those are all my questions.
Rob,
Okay, thanks.
questions, please.
So I'm sorry that I had stepped out, and so I missed kind of the prelude to the project. What is it, a family compound? I'm trying to understand. You have two driveways coming in, in the kind of 2 different areas. Is it what? I'm not understanding that part of it.
Right. So I think if you'll think of it as there's sort of a primary entrance that the guests might enter, and that's the early long driveway and entrance up to the house. And then the daily entrance for the residents will be the upper driveway, which that's one that Derek was describing as the primary entrance for the family. That's where the garage is. The question about compound, I think that's a good statement. This property, again, we're just adding a very small amount of square footage to sort of round out the second floor master suite or primary suite. There was an existing stable, probably built 70 years ago or so, and there was a guest house added onto it. That's in the middle of the property, but the main residence, which is approximately 6,000 feet, That is the middle structure that you see on this site plan. And then the only new structures we're adding are the pool and the cabana up at the pool. The pool area where the pool is, that used to be years ago a riding arena. It's a large flat area. There's no trees growing in the middle of that. And so it just seemed like the natural sunny spot on the property. And of course, being up there by itself, we felt like the cabana should go adjacent to that. So yes, it is, let's call it a family compound. But the only addition we're putting to it is the cabana and the pool itself, and then legally converting this aviary.
So I mean, I see some of the proposed architectural changes and enhancements, and there's some stuff that looks great, really great, and there's some stuff maybe not so as much, but so that goes to, you actually started to allude this. Why? So it seems like the pool and that area kind of is an opportunity to kind of connect some of the buildings. Everything seems so spread out, and that seems like, to me, I wouldn't necessarily want to go swimming as much because it looks like a hike. So I'm just, did you guys discuss, or what is the thought behind kind of having the pool so remote and not using that as kind of an opportunity to kind of connect and weave kind of the some of the architectural pieces together?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because if you look at the site plan, you'll notice all the oak trees on the property. And this is the only open area where we wouldn't be removing trees. It's also a bit of a, as Derek alluded to earlier, kind of a boulder rock forest. This is all in an alluvial deposit area off the Romero Canyon Creek. And so the site holds just some unbelievably beautiful boulders with lichen and site walls that are equally aged and quite fantastic. And so we've been very specific with all of the improvements that we're putting on site and the locations. So the pool ended up, it's a destination in the yard, if you will. It's the sunniest spot where we get the most amount of light. And pretty much anything nested closer would involve a lot of grading and would necessitate removing trees. Derek, what would you add to that?
No, and I take a little bit of exception with Rob's description of everything so spread out, because actually the houses together are almost create their own compound, including the guest quarters. So I think it's actually a chance to use the land that we have.
Okay, I mean, and so just so you know, I'm not necessarily, especially, I always like oak firewood for my fireplace, so I'm never opposed to losing an oak tree here and there, but, because you have a lot of them there, but anyways, it's, thank you for helping me understand, so.
Earmuffs, Kimberly, earmuffs.
I heard that.
And I have no questions. Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 865 Romero Canyon Road, please?
No requests.
Okay, so we are on for concept first review. Robert, comments?
I believe the architectural improvements are nice, and the only part I don't like is that shed roofed area, and if maybe you could do something with that. I don't know if you could turn into a gable or something. I don't know what windows are up there, but other than that, it's a great looking project.
Bill, comments, please.
If, could you go back to those elevations, the rear, I think it was. That one there, yeah. Yeah, I think the additions look fine and great, and the landscaping seems good. The only, I think what maybe I was originally, when I saw the arches, I thought, oh, something's awkward about that. And I think it's where you have the adjacent door and the springing of the adjacent steel sash that maybe bothers me. Again, not the end of the world, just more of advice. it seems like if that door came down to where it sprung on the radius, and maybe you had clear story or transoms or something over that, that it might feel a little better. And maybe they're not so Spanish cut light, that instead of the reduced radiuses within that radius, that you'd have just straight steel mullions and muttons going through. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But anyway, these aren't critical items. I think I can, approve everything as it stands. I just thought I'd throw my concept in there if it helped. That's it.
Stacy?
I mean, the overall project, I have to say, I really like it. It's a huge improvement on what I would define as kind of a mishmash of structures brought together and sort of making order out of them. I think that's great. I have no problems too with the landscape. I understand the pool placement, especially in the sun and not under the oak trees, makes a lot of sense, even if you have to hike to it. I'm fine with that. I think the only thing architecturally that I see that I just think is a little bit out of discord are those two arched windows on the facade on A 3.12. It just seems out of character with everything else that you're doing, but I understand, clients and they want it, and it's a little bit whimsical. But all I would do is advise you to just maybe carefully think about that. That's it.
Rob, comments, please.
I agree with some of those comments by Stacy, and some of the other architects. Could you go to 3.13, please, the next sheet? And so look for that, for instance, like I really like what you folks did there. And then go on to 3.14. And then that's where I was referencing where I really like what you did. And then on this one, not as much, I guess seems like I like the way you've added stone, and maybe that's the one building where wainscot or something onto this structure in some fashion would kind of maybe tie it into what you're doing, as opposed to just that big kind of wall of stone. It feels like a wainscot would work better. But overall, I like where you folks are going on the project. And, as far as the pool, yeah, that's fine if you want to do it in the sun and hike, or take some trees out, and then, having pools kind of part of rock outcrops and adjoining that can be pretty fabulous thing, especially if you don't have to walk so far. But it's a great project, and I'm looking forward to seeing it kind of fleshed out a little more, but I think I like where you're going.
This kind of building is ubiquitous in the Northeast, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont. But Cold Spring Tavern is really the only building I know out here that's got this very casual, sort of slammed together, maybe a friend of yours gave you a building and you brought it up by mule cart, and stuck it on there. And as I remember, I think I worked on this project 30 years ago or something. And it's just, if it's the same project, I'm fairly certain it is, it's just this complete mismatch, which has so much charm and heart and old Montecito. I mean, old Montecito, 1890s Montecito, And so I think it's pretty hard to do anything wrong to it, since everything else is, its style is, whatever. I'm not even sure what word. So I have no trouble with what you guys are doing, and anyway. So
I think you hit it on the head, John.
it's a conglomeration. That's a big word for something like this. But okay, so we are on for concept. What do you guys want to do with this thing? What?
Come back for preliminary final.
Full board?
Yeah. Yes.
On.
I think just come back for preliminary. I think there's a lot of, this could go in a lot of different directions, and I'd really like to see how they weave this project and these buildings together into something that's more cohesive, if possible. So, come back for preliminary. And
Okay, my comment on that is,
Yeah.
if we don't want to get preliminary, we're not, I mean, final, we're certainly under no obligation to do that. If it's not agendized, we don't have the ability to do it,
Okay, I'm
right?
fine with
It's
that.
against the law to do that. So but it's kind of funky enough that maybe the full board should get involved with it. So, preliminary, final,
So full board.
full board, and just, chances are it's just gonna, yeah.
I could second that.
Okay, everybody good there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, last item, just because
Thank
of
you.
quorum. Thank you, guys. Have a nice
Appreciate
evening. Item number 6, we had a site visit today, 800 Oak Grove Drive. We had a letter, I don't know if the applicants knew that came in. I think I got it as I was driving away from the site. Did you guys get that? No, the applicants. Did the applicants get that? Melissa, Mark, anybody there? Item number 6, 800 Oak Grove. Please. Mark,
Landscape is on with APT Design.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I thought we had item 7 ahead of us.
no, they were actually put into slot number 1, and so that's long gone at this point. So
Understood.
item number 6, 800 Oak Grove Drive, please. So Melissa, you're here.
Yes, and Mark Shields is also logged on.
Okay, good.
Good
So-
afternoon. Thank you for having us, and thank you for the board members who came this morning to the site visit for the second story poles. I wanted to start the meeting by saying that we are in receipt of the letter from the neighbor to the northeast at 802 Oak Grove.
We just got that. Is that the one that we got right at the end of the meeting, or?
We got it just before.
Directly east, one we got today.
Where's the letter? Before the meeting today. I saw it.
We now have 2. Did you get both of them?
No, I only received the one from yesterday evening.
That's why I want, so we'll get to that soon. They were not supportive, so, okay. And we can read it right now if you want to get started, or we can wait. What? Okay. Okay, so Melissa, why don't you just do a quick presentation? Mark, do a quick presentation. And then we'll get some questions, and let's just do it in the normal way, and then we'll get to public comment and we'll go from there.
Hey, Melissa, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
So going back to what I was saying, we are in receipt of the letter from the neighbor at 802 Oak Grove from yesterday evening. However, we feel like the photograph that was provided is not perhaps a really accurate depiction of the views from their property. I believe some of the board members who walked the site today noticed that given that it's a one-story structure with a little grade change, not really clear on where this view was taken from. The site planning of our project that we presented to you has not changed since this summer, but I wanted to just bring to everybody's attention that we were very both careful but also intentional on how the footprint of the house would fit on this site. And if you could zoom into this aerial, I think it'll be helpful. We've got a constrained site with a
drainage, dry creek setback, 50-foot setback to the west. Obviously, we're surrounded by oaks, which we've been trying to be as respectful as possible. We've got a flood condition and a 2-foot finished floor elevation that needs to be elevated. Site access and the sloping site, we've studied a couple different ways, and you've seen this project in the past from either from us or other architects too. So I think the way we've nestled this structure and the building footprint is very respectful of the context. The second floor portion of the project is a little under a third, or right around a third of the site of the size of the first floor building footprint. So it's quite small. It's not really large. And we've tried our best to minimize the height of the building on the portion that's to the east by dropping that roof or that ridge 3 feet from the main house. If you go to page 8 on sheet A102. So this kind of tells a story of that portion of the second floor and the scale compared to the first floor. Since you last saw us, some of the minor tweaks that we've done, although we're not going to talk about the ADU, but it has shifted slightly away from the oaks. The yoga studio also has moved westerly. We shrunk the ADU deck, also not in your scope, shrunk the pool size a little bit by 5 feet or so. We've been working towards our preliminary approval with completeness with our staff person, planner. Have arborist report, geologist report, archaeologist report, coordination with civil and landscape on the septic design and EHS. And of course, and we had a modification pending for the ADU in the front setback. With that said, I'd like to look at the elevation real quick on sheet and pass it over to Mark Shields on page 10, sheet A201. And if you could zoom in a little bit to the elevation itself, please. Thank you, David. Mark, do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about the massing similar to our presentation in the summer?
Well, simply that, again, our second story element is pretty much half the percentage of the lower floor. And our little studio addition or room addition, which is 01, if you can look at this elevation on the left to the east, does step down from the main ridge of the house approximately 3 feet. And so we like the massing of the house, the way it steps towards the edges, both east and west, and felt like the proportions were perfect. And I believe the MBAR liked it the last time we showed it as well. So we're comfortable with the design. I think the issue with the neighbor's view is very subjective. I had been to that property before when these clients were actually looking at that property, and there was no ocean view advertised for the property at the time. There was no ocean view, actually. I think us clearing the trees might have maybe promoted a bit of the idea of ocean view, but primarily that house was marketed before the neighbors purchased it as a mountain view property, which it is. So I feel like to make a big deal out of their ocean view, which is just barely an ocean view, if any, as Melissa pointed out, that who knows where that photo was taken from or what height, but it's a one-story house. So certainly the ocean view from their property is not significant.
And does that conclude your presentation now, Mark and Melissa?
I just would like to add that we are near getting ready for preliminary approval. Like I said, there's been a change in our planner recently, and Veronica has been very great to work with and getting up to speed. We like the project as designed and feel that we've done our best work to get to this point. Didn't have any contact with our neighbors, although we met, our client met them a little over a month ago and provided our business card and to let us know if they had any questions. We hadn't heard from them until the email that came through last night. So I would ask the board to take a look again at what we presented today, what we presented before too, that the project is in keeping and in context, I think, to and respectful to our neighbors already as it is. I'd like to turn it over to Landscape so they can provide some updates since their last presentation. Sonia from EPT is here.
Hi, good afternoon. If you could pull up the landscape sheets, please, I can talk through those.
I think it's page 19 or 20. I know, a few more.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, generally, as Melissa has noted, there's no major design changes to the site plan for landscape. It's really based on their minor architectural shifts, and we've included some additional planting information related to oak tree mitigation. So for our tree disposition plan, as you see here, the site does have one diseased oak, and that will be removed. And in addition to that, there are some oaks that will be minimally impacted by construction, which we will be mitigating for based on the arborist and biologist reports. And I will speak to that further in a minute. So for further detail on the oak impacts, please refer to the arborist report. Can you please go to the next sheet? Again, there are no major design impacts and changes since you have all last seen this plan, other than the minor architectural updates. Next sheet, please. As shown in the imagery, the site design is very much driven by the clean Mediterranean architecture, using a lot of local aesthetics of Santa Barbara sandstone, permeable gravel pathways, and layered planting to complement the home and the existing native oaks. Next sheet, please. As we continue to develop our planting plan, we will be updating and optimizing our water use. Currently, we are well below our maximum allotted water allotment. And can you please jump to sheet L301? So overall, our planting plan is again very much driven by the Mediterranean influenced architecture, and with planting species that are complementing the white clean walls and something that will provide a backdrop to the family's daily lifestyle. We have a mix of California natives and other regionally adapted species, with the majority of the plants being low to very low in water use. For oak tree mitigation, we are proposing a total of 9 48-inch box oaks, and 6 15-gallon oaks as mitigation for the trees that will be impacted by construction. These new oaks are being placed to work with the existing tree locations, as well as provide natural screening and privacy for this property. In addition, to speak to the neighbors' concerns, we have strategically placed a few trees to the north corner as well to provide privacy from the neighbors. Can you please jump to sheet L401? For lighting, overall, the lighting is very minimal. It's meant to complement the surrounding neighborhood that's very peaceful, quiet. The fixtures are placed only along key circulation routes with minimal accent lighting. All the fixtures will be hooded and downward facing in order to ensure that no beams of light are directed towards neighboring properties. And that concludes my presentation for your landscape. Thank you.
Melissa, Mark, are you done now, please?
Yes, I just wanted to see if our clients, Jennifer, who I believe is online, if she wanted to add anything before we open it to questions.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. Nice to meet you all. Just to comment that Yeah, we're very happy with how the project looks as of right now. But we do understand our neighbors' concerns and, want to keep those in mind as well. So, but we are very happy with how it looks, and just glad to be here today.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jeff.
Okay, questions, Rob? You were there today?
Yes, I was, and I don't have any questions at this time.
Bill, questions?
Yeah, Mark, you had mentioned the floor to floor height there again, you said 10, I think, on the lower and 8 on the upper. Is that right? Do you have any sections to show that, or?
It's actually 9.6 on the upper floor at the
If
moment.
you can go to page 16 of the
I
set
think there's a section.
right there.
Is that plate or floor to floor, please?
You can zoom in there.
You can zoom in.
David.
The floor to floor is 11 on the, from first to
Well,
second. The plate height is 10 feet.
Okay, very good thing.
And on the upper floor, you're doing open volume ceilings in that one, most specifically that one
The
room
living
that is-
room, the living room really.
Go ahead, sorry.
Which is to the west.
And the room on the second floor that's on the east side, is that an open volume ceiling there too, or not?
Yes, we'd like to keep it that way. Mhm.
And could that be dropped to
It could
8
be,
or
you know, I
8.6?
think,
Yeah.
the whole upper floor, we could study that to see if it
Yeah.
impacts. We do have
Yeah.
on the south side, we do have a projecting balcony off the master. And if we lower the plate height, it will affect the way that looks a bit, but we could absolutely study that.
Look at that, okay.
Can we go to the elevation real quick on sheet A201, page 10? And if you could zoom in above the garage, what we're discussing. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's the A1 or 01 ridge.
Where the node is on the ridge, that's the little element, that's a.
Yeah, that's the one in question.
That's right.
And then on your landscaping, where exactly are the new trees? Are they down on the south property line there? Is that where you're putting those trees, the mitigation trees? I'm trying to figure out how much from Piedras Drive or Petrus Drive
Petrus.
is, how much screen buffer you have there. Is there a good buffer of plantings that you're offering in?
So
Looks
on the
like it.
sheet, the trees with the darker green color and the kind of yellow toned one. Those
Got
are
it.
new trees that are nestled within the existing canopy that's kind of shown in these white, pale green areas.
And the last question, tree lighting, are you doing any tree lighting or is it all just on the ground mounted? Are you doing moonlight stuff that's shining down from trees, or is it all just ground mounted lighting?
I believe at this point, we are only showing ground fixtures, but
okay.
Yeah, anything that we might add for accents would be very minimal.
And no tree lighting at this point?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Robert? Questions?
No questions.
Stacy, questions, please.
So when you cited the oaks up above, at the top of the site, was it with the intention of screening the house from the neighbors' views and kind of repairing that?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any other screening along going down Piedra Street down below? Besides those oaks, just around those two structures, are you doing any other screening between yourself and that adjacent property? Or is there existing screening in place that's significant?
There is a significant existing hedge along the east property line.
Do we have a photo of that?
Yes, if you can go to page 2, I believe. There are some photos, and if you can kind of see it on picture number 1, If you zoom in,
Can we zoom in?
oops,
Oops.
there's a few vantage points to see it, but there's plenty of screening to the property on the east. So it's kind of hard to tell here, but where your cursor is located, if you can pan over a little to the bottom left, not completely, but just a little bit more, you can kind of see some of the hedging there. I believe there's another photograph as well, if you can zoom back out.
And we can't see their house from this side, right? Correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Those are my questions.
And so can we go to the FAR, please? I don't remember what it is. And
If you could please zoom in on the left-hand side, it's
let me take a
Slow down.
look. Okay, so 99. Okay. And I have no more questions. Public comment. Now, we had a letter that everybody had from Justin Vogue. Okay, and then we got another one. So Justin, would you like to address the board first, please? 3 minutes. We did get your letter, your photograph, and we looked at it while we were on site today, just for your edification.
Sure. Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thanks for taking the opportunity to hear. So yeah, my name's Justin Vogue. We live in the house up at 802. We purchased the house about a year ago, and we do have ocean and channel island views that are present on our east-facing patio. Then out of our two south-facing bedrooms. So this is taken. I'm 6'4". This is at my height, 6 foot. So when I come home, I can see channel views. Excuse me, the channel islands and the ocean. It's something I actually really enjoy about the property. And you know, when the project had initially been proposed, I think in June, the question was to put up the story poles, which are very informative just in regards to, you know, height of the project. It's really just, you know, question if it's possible to decrease the size so that we'd still have some maintenance of that, and also just privacy for those two bedrooms that are south facing. Other than that, I think it's a beautiful project.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I have a question for Justin?
Sure.
Please go ahead.
When I look at the picture that's presented to us, there's the oak tree on the right, and it looks like it's been pruned to the point that the view's been opened up. Am I correct on that one?
So there, I don't believe it was pruned. That's on their property. I think that there was a storm that broke part of it, but it's pretty much intact.
So
Yeah.
is there potentially another oak tree that's strategically placed that with a few selective branches being removed or something that might kind of give you another peak of you kind of have a peak of the ocean that you could work with the neighbors on, and is that possibility exists?
The west.
And to the right.
Yeah, I think to
like
the
either
west,
side,
that
like
would-
maybe just you know,
West
one
of the
side of the
right.
house or the other. If you selectively cut a few key branches of some of those existing oak trees, you might be able, without them having to change the house, you might be able to grab some more ocean view, because it, you know, looks like it extends to the left, it extends to the right, and it's some of the existing oak trees are which are knocking your view down. That's all.
Yeah, I think it's sort of smack in the middle. Is where the proposed building is. Yeah, I mean, we still have a little bit of a sliver to the east where you can see right there, but I think the rest of the building would block. I think it'd probably removing the entire oak, which, you know, I wouldn't necessarily want to have to do.
So that's all I'm maybe encouraging, is that you look and work with the neighbors, and maybe there is some clean up some of those oaks on their property might kind of make you both happy, I guess, is where I'm going with it. So thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have another letter that we got, please. Okay. I am writing this message as a public comment for the proposed new building located at 800 Oak Grove, which is adjacent to my property, 2128 Piedras Drive. I have serious concerns regarding the negative impact of the proposed project as it is now envisioned on the entire neighborhood, which presently is very homogeneous. This new project, reaching for the sky and blocking collective views of the mountains, represents a huge anomaly which I fear will negatively impact all the residents of this immediate area by bringing down the value of our homes. These concerns specifically center on the height and placement of the proposed building based on the recent story pole, sightline, scaffolding placement. Your help in this situation would be very much appreciated by all of us in this neighborhood, and signed by Gabriella Schooley, I guess. If I mashed your name, I apologize. So can we do Google Earth or something 2128 the address, please? So we can figure out exactly where that is.
It's the property to the east of ours.
Okay, let's just. Okay, thank you. Yeah, directly to the east, not to the south, which is where I was expecting it to be.
Mm-mm.
So, okay. Anybody else who would like to address the board, please?
No additional requests.
Okay, so we are on for concept today. Rob, it is your turn, please. Comments?
We go to the landscape plan, please. I generally like this project. As I've been sitting here absorbing it, there's just a few pieces, like the little kind of creek view area and some of the pathways. Looks like there's some I like actually up by your number 3, you know how you have some 5-sided flagstone there? I actually think that incorporating a little bit more of that in some places, and maybe like the little creek view, for instance, rather than having that kind of bulbous, look, that maybe some of that 5-sided flagstone kind of moving around, on the back of the pool and some of the landscaped areas, I think would be a better look for the way this property feels. But I mean, that's just a minor comment. I think overall the architecture's nice. The landscape plans you folks do are always nice. So that's my thoughts, 2 cents.
Bill, please, comments.
Yeah, architecture, of course, is beautiful home, well done, well proportioned, I think. I think if Mark, you can put a little effort into looking at the heights of that, that would be appreciated, I'm sure, by the neighbors as well. And I would encourage, it looks like you've got a pretty good thick landscape buffer there on Piedras. That was the area standing there on Piedras, looking back up at the structure that felt, quite tall. And if you can kind of buffer that with plants and trees, which is what it looks like you're doing, I would encourage that. Yeah, and otherwise, I think it's looking good.
Robert, please, comments. Robert?
I love the architecture, and just looking at the story poles, I don't see any way other than going 1 story to fix that view. So I think I would support this as is.
Stacy, please.
I did the site visit today and I looked very carefully at the view from the house above. And I mean, as I looked at it and kind of analyzed it, I really feel like in about 5 to 10 years' time, if you touched nothing there and just let those oak trees grow, that they're going to just eventually close off that view naturally, that neighbor may have. So I think you guys just need to talk more together about that. But overall, and one other little issue too that I had is just the side wall, because you do have a significant oak tree by the trash enclosure area. if you could please just restudy pulling that wall away, maybe relocating the trash enclosure and making sure it's a dry stack to save the one significant oak. I know the little one at the corner, it's not a saver. It's not worth it. But if you could possibly do something, because I think that one will be killed by that retaining wall. Other than that, though, I really appreciate the design on the architecture and the rest of the site plan. And I did go online too to carefully kind of study more of the screening on the PA address that, but yes, you're probably going to have to speak with them, but I could support the architecture at this point.
So in 1992 or so, the Montecito Community Plan had just been adopted, and we were trying to figure out the architectural guidelines, much of which remains from that, but if anything, the guidelines have become more generous in terms of building. But at the time, we knew when you looked at what the community was then in terms of building size and height, square footage and height, we knew the community was going to increase about 50%, somewhere in that area, over some period of time. And, you know, this is, I assume, been a vacant lot that entire time. I'm not sure. Maybe it had a fire come across, but I don't know. And so this is not inconsistent with where we were thinking way back when. And we routinely approve in Montecito what I would call the Montecito spec, which is 10 feet below on the first floor, and usually 8'6" to 9". 9 is probably the most common on the second floor. And this is not an excessively steep roof pitch. This is a 4 and 12. The applicants are fighting flood control, like almost everybody that we see. We had one today where people were actually killed a number of years ago in flood, and they're being brought up. Mark and Melissa are being brought up about 2 feet also. And there's nothing that anybody can do about that. And to have the 10 and the 9.6, I mean, if you want to get really picky, you could you drop it 6 inches, but that's not going to make any difference on the view, period. It's just not going to make any difference on it. You'd have to take off that entire second floor in order to maintain that view. The property to the north is a single story, let's call it a vintage home. It's been there a while, right? It was not just built a couple of years ago. And, at some point it's going to get a second story. The reason they're putting a second story on is so that they can grab that view as well. So, I would like to consider myself a very strong neighbor advocate, but I honestly don't see that there's much that this applicant can do unless they eliminate that entire, I think it's a den, if I remember right, up on that third floor,
Correct.
second floor. And Jennifer, I don't know if you'd like to talk with Justin about it, but I would have a hard time not voting for this project as it is. It's Mark and Melissa do excellent work here in town, and we all know it. And so it's going to be a remarkably beautiful house. It is one of the first, if not the only, 2-story house in the immediate area. And so if you didn't notice that, not only the house directly to the north, but the northwest, and the project down directly south of it, the project to the east of it, and across the street are all single story. So this will start a trend. There's no doubt about it. It will, if history is to be proven consistent, this will not affect property values except in a very, very northward direction. So I would love to have Jennifer and Justin get together, see if they can find a way to be courteous to each other, but I don't think to be consistent with every other vote that I've had over the years, I don't think that I could vote no on this. So That's where I'm coming from. And to that end, are you guys ready to come back for preliminary?
Almost, yes.
Getting there.
Okay,
We're
so,
getting there. Veronica is getting up to speed since she's been handed the project. And like I said, we've completed
Okay.
all the reports that we had to a few weeks ago. So we'll be ready for preliminary or preliminary and final. I don't know which way we need to go.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Preliminary, final, full board. Yeah, preliminary, final, full board.
We may, sorry, Mr. Chair, I was just gonna say, if we were to take a straw vote today, I feel that in general, the board seems to be supportive of the current mass size bulk scale and the footprint of the second story. Is that a correct statement?
That is a correct statement, and I am just asking to see if Justin and Jennifer, as neighbors, can get together and see if something can be worked out. But Justin, I don't see a reason to vote against this. So if you put a second story on, I think you're gonna grab a view too. So maybe I'm wrong about that. You certainly have mountain views, so I think we don't vote because it's only a concept, but preliminary, final, full board, right?
Yeah.
And Melissa, don't expect, you may very well get kicked to the consent calendar after that to pick up a couple small things. That's very
Understood.
common. Okay,
That's
Yes.
fine
Okay,
with
so-
us, yeah.
okay, so good luck with everybody. Next meeting is on Thanksgiving, so obviously it's not then. So our next meeting is in 3 weeks. Then we have one more meeting after that in 2 weeks. That's the end of the year. Okay, just so everybody knows about it.
That's a wrap.
Okay, see ya.
Thank you
Make a
all.
Thank
motion.
you. Thank
Do
you.
we have a motion for,
I make a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
There a
November
second?
14th.
There's-
Second.
any further discussion?
Oh.
All those in